missiles for Iran, which has said only...
Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads, they pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Action.
Well, it's that time of year again. The Free Speech TV fund drive, pledge drive, membership drive. I'm not sure the official name of it, but I think it's the fall pledge drive. And fall is here. Boy, is it here. And the bills are coming due at Free Speech TV. They have to pay for satellite fees. They have to pay for transmission, to get this show from us to them and to get the show from them to you. They have to pay for their staff. It's a small staff. The entire television network runs on a budget that's smaller than 1 hour, the budget of 1 hour of the programming on, for example, MSNBC. They are truly doing amazing things with very little money. And they're doing it as a nonprofit that is owned by all of us, essentially. There literally is no owner. It's you. You are Free Speech TV. And so we have to come to you and say, or Free Speech TV has to come to you and say, please help. And I'm doing that on their behalf. And also, obviously, if Free Speech TV goes away, my show is not on your TV set anymore. So I have a very big concern about this too. We need to keep this network on the air. And the only way we can do that is if you call now, 877-378-8669. That is the telephone number, isn't it, Nate? Yeah, okay, 877-378-8669. I've done so many of these for years, even though it's not written down on my stuff. I can do it from memory. And let them know that you'd like to support Free Speech TV. You can make a gift of any amount. You can make a gift on a recurring basis or not. You can say, ding my credit card every month for $5 or $10 or whatever, or you can simply say, here's my $12.50 contribution. It's what I can afford. Or here's my $12,000 contribution. Whatever you can afford that you think reflects the value of the programming that you're getting from Free Speech TV. I think I can say with a fairly high level of certainty that the quality of programming on this network is not matched anywhere else. You don't find this quality of programming on NPR. You don't find it on public television. You don't find it on your local cable channel and your local cable shows. You're certainly not going to find it in the corporate media in the United States. It's here on Free Speech TV. And it's here because for, I think it's 17 or 18 years now, maybe a little longer, people like you have called in during the pledge drives and said, yes, please stay alive, keep going. We want more. And so as we begin this election season, and I realize it's a tough one, there's a lot of candidates out there, a lot of great candidates who are asking for your support, and there's a lot of things you can do with them. You can phone bank, you can go door to door, you can call your friends, you can essentially lobby on their behalf. But with Free Speech TV, basically the only way you can help, well, obviously you can tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV, but the main way that you can help is by calling now, 877-378-8669, and making a contribution. With a $30 gift, you get the Vote 11-6-18, November 6th of this year bumper sticker, and a Vote Free Speech TV button. With a $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. This is a book this is a comic book, essentially. It's illustrated, but it's based on, as I recall, either 8 or 10 chapters, and each one is based on a fairly long op-ed that I wrote. This is as solid as any book you'll ever have, and yet it's perfect to, leave in the bathroom where people can pick it up, or just share with your kids, or put it on their coffee table. It's a great book. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray Made in the USA T-shirt. Unlike the Trump paraphernalia, it's actually made in the U.S., and the bumper sticker. And a $120 gift can also be $10 a month. With a $240 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV hoodie kit. And that's the Vote Free Speech TV logo gray Made in the USA zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the aluminum button, 2 1/4 inch Vote Free Speech TV, and the Vote 11-6-18 bumper sticker. With a $360 gift, which can be $30 a month for a year, you get the Vote for Our Future pack, which is the gray T-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweater, the hoodie, the 2 1/4 inch diameter aluminum button, and the Vote 11-6-18 bumper sticker. With a $480 gift, that would be $40 a month if you want to do that for the year. You get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. You get the Vote Free Speech TV logo T-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the Vote Free Speech TV button, and the Vote Free Speech TV November 6, 2018 bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and I'll take you to lunch. We just had 3 weeks ago or so, we had a group of people come here from all over the country. It was just marvelous. And they hung out in our studio for the last hour of the show.
The Thom Hartmann
we walked to a
Program.
nearby restaurant and had a... Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. It's the Thom Hartmann radio and television program. We are live daily, noon to 3 Eastern on commercial stations, radio stations all over the country, on Pacifica, non-commercial stations, on Sirius XM from New York to California. Also, we're live on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live, on Patreon, with special bonuses for people watching us there. And on YouTube, for that matter, and live nationwide on cable TV and satellite TV via Free Speech TV, Sling TV, Roku, DirecTV, Dish Network, all kinds of stuff. So lots and lots of ways to find our program. A lot going on today. The hearings hearings is not even the right word anymore. There's just circus that's going on in Washington, D.C. right now with Brett Kavanaugh. I've got a lot of news about that. And then, of course, we've got this op-ed that was in the New York Times yesterday, and I wanted to share my opinions on that with you as well. But let me start with Kavanaugh and abortion. And this story may not seem to have anything to do with Kavanaugh, but this is the very essence of it. Texas passed a law, which has been championed by Ken Paxton, their Attorney General, passed a law saying that if you are a woman and you have a miscarriage, or you have a stillbirth, or you have an ectopic pregnancy, now this is where the egg and sperm meet and get fertilized, but they don't travel all the way down the fallopian tube into the uterus and implant, but instead they start growing inside the fallopian tube, which can kill a woman. if you have any of those circumstances, or an abortion, if you have any of those circumstances, you must report yourself to the local police department if you fail to hold a burial ceremony and either bury or cremate the fetal tissue. Now, I'm not sure that the you must report yourself to the police department is part of this law, but there are penalties for not doing this, which means that the police department may report itself to you. But you get my point. In Texas, Ken Paxton and Greg Abbott and the men running Texas, very much want to make it law in Texas, and it is law in Texas right now, that if you have a miscarriage, you must have a funeral. I believe about 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in a miscarriage. I know very few women who have not had at least one miscarriage in their lives. And to have to compound the tragedy of that with the necessity to basically follow a state law and hold a funeral for a miscarriage, regardless of when the miscarriage happened. Could be, in the 6th week, right? Month and a half into it. To have to do this is bizarre. And this morning, yesterday afternoon rather, a federal judge blocked that law, saying that it's an unnecessary and inappropriate intrusion into the rights of women and, blah-de-blah. But Brett Kavanaugh is on the and part of the judge's rationale was that it basically this infringes on a woman's right to choose based on Roe v. Wade, because also if you have an abortion, Texas wants you to have a funeral, regardless of when the abortion happened. And Brett Kavanaugh has taken the position now that while Roe v. Wade may be settled law, it might be stare decisis, it might be established precedent, that doesn't mean that it can't be overturned. And in fact, he wrote it in a memo when he was in the Bush White House. And this is why it's so important that so much of this stuff comes out. I mean, and it's not coming out. One of the lawyers this was in 2003 when he was working for George W. Bush. One of the lawyers, and they were prepping, I believe it was Patricia Owens. It was one of Bush's Supreme Court nominees who wanted to go before the Judiciary Committee and say, yeah, Roe v. Wade is settled law. And Brett Kavanaugh pushed back on that. He sent an email and he said, quote, I am not sure that all legal scholars refer to Roe as the settled law of the land at the Supreme Court level, since the court can always overrule its own precedent. And 3 justices on the court would do so right now. Scalia, Roberts, Roberts wasn't on the court at that time. Scalia, Thomas, and I'm not sure who the third is that he's referring to, but, it wasn't Kennedy, but here he is saying that this is what we've got right now. So it's not settled law. We can overturn it. So we shouldn't even call it settled law. This is what Kavanaugh was saying. So if you want to live in a world or in a country where if you have a miscarriage, you must report yourself to the police or certify to the police that, yes, I actually had a funeral or a burial or a cremation for that little blob of bloody tissue. If you want to live in that kind of a country, then, hey, call your senators and tell them that Brett Kavanaugh is your man. The number for the United States Senate is 202-224-3121. Now, to the issue of this op-ed. This op-ed is amazing. What this guy, this is this anonymous writer in the New York Times, and he's saying that there's absolute chaos in the Trump White House. Trump himself is impetuous and bizarre, and these may not be the words in the op-ed. I'm not reading from it. I'm characterizing it. That he changes his mind, that he's making decisions that put the national security at risk. But don't worry, there's a small band of us who really like things like, the tax cuts and the deregulation. I mean, this was clearly a Mike Pence Republican who's saying this. And in my opinion, I believe it's probably Mike Pence's speechwriter who wrote this. Pence wants Trump out of there. Pence believes that God ordained him to be president. He has believed that since he was a teenager. He believed that when he was a right-wing talk show host. climbing the political ladder in Indiana. He believed that when he represented Indiana in the House of Representatives. He believed that when he was governor of Indiana. He believes that now as vice president. God wants him to be president. And that's why I think that it's probably Mike Pence's speechwriter, because Mike Pence loves using this word lodestar, and it appears in the op-ed. And his speechwriter would know that. Or it's somebody trying to, throw shade on Pence, to suggest to Trump, hey, maybe it's Pence. I doubt Pence himself would write it, though, because Mike Pence is really good at not having his fingerprints on the dirty tricks that he does. By the way, the whole you must have a funeral for your fetus law that was just struck down in Texas, Mike Pence proposed a similar law in Indiana. Just so you know how crazy this guy is. But my thoughts on this op-ed, and I would love to hear yours at 202-808-9925. My thoughts on this op-ed are that and by the way, in all probability, Rush Limbaugh is going to be saying the exact same thing right now on his show. And all the right-wing hate radio guys. And I have a certain level of discomfort in being in their company, but this is my opinion. A coup has happened. There is an unelected group of people inside the White House, inside this administration, who have taken policymaking and administration out of the hands of the guy that was elected by the people, Donald Trump, and put it in their own hands. That is the definition of a coup d'etat. I think that it is highly unconstitutional. I think it's highly illegal what this guy or man or woman is confessing to. And I think it's wrong. If they really believe that Donald Trump is a menace to the country, such a menace that they have to, he talks about General Mattis and John Kelly taking papers off his desk so that he can't see them or sign them. If they really believe that it's that bad, they need to sit down with Mike Pence and Paul Ryan and invoke the 25th Amendment. It's that simple. There is a constitutional process for dealing with a president who does not have the capacity to execute the obligations of his office. There is a clear constitutional process. It was put into place in 1967, in large part in response to the death of John Kennedy, but also in small part in response to back in whatever the year was, 17, 18, whatever the year when Woodrow Wilson had his stroke, and one of his assistants stepped in and said, I'm in charge here. Well, Al Haig did the same thing when Reagan was shot. And it was an attempt to clarify exactly what the process is if the president is incapacitated, whether he's been shot, whether he's had a stroke, whether he's dead, or in the case of Donald Trump, whether he's crazy, incompetent, or dangerous, or possibly even an agent of a foreign government. If that is the case, there is a constitutional mechanism to remove the president. And in my opinion, instead of bragging to the New York Times that we've got this under control, we're getting our tax cuts, everything's good, we're cutting environmental regulations so the billionaires are going to get richer, everything's good. Yeah, some people may die from mercury poisoning and stuff, but don't worry about it, lead poisoning, it's not a big deal. Everything's good, we've got this under control. We're going to restrain the worst impulses of this man. I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that it's legal, that it's appropriate, that it's reasonable. If the American people elect somebody, now I can make the argument that the American people didn't elect Donald Trump, that he's there in part because of interference by Russia. He's there in part because of voter suppression by the Republican Party, that if people who wanted to vote had been allowed to vote, and I'm talking legally registered voters, had been allowed to vote, citizens of the United States, that Donald Trump would not be president. You've got Hillary Clinton, who got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. I could build that argument all day long, but that's a completely separate thing. The fact of the matter is that we now have a group of people inside the White House or inside the administration being represented by this, quote, senior administration official, end quote, saying, don't worry, we've taken over the government. Well, that scares the hell out of me. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He should be running the country as he sees fit. And if we think that, if you and I think that it's wrong, we should vote his party out of office on November 6th. And if people in his cabinet, if his vice president, if people in Congress actually believe the things that they're constantly whispering to reporters? That the guy is nuts, that he's a narcissist, that he is a psychopath or a sociopath? If they believe that, invoke the damn 25th Amendment and get him out. And make Mike Pence president. So who do you think wrote the memo? And what's your opinion of it? Do you think this is a great patriot? Or are we right now in the United States, for arguably the first time in our history, living through a coup d'etat?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's 18 minutes past the hour. Back with your calls and more of the news of the day right after this. I got more on the hearings, too. And Julie. Oh, man. Stick around. And welcome back. All righty, let's pick up some phone calls here and see what you all think about this thing and everything that's going on. Marcia, watching Free Speech TV in Englewood, Florida. Hey, Marcia, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I just want to know if anybody else remembers that just a few days ago, perhaps a week ago, before this anonymous thing came out, I can't think of the name of the general, that was saying, he was telling openly, there's many times that he totally disregards orders from the president because they're so insane.
Yeah.
He didn't use those words.
This has been reported in Fire and Fury, Michael Wolff's book. It's been reported in Omarosa's book, and it's apparently now reported in Bob Woodward's book, among other sources. Yes.
Yeah. And as far as the person not coming forward, if he comes forward, his or her job is gone.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what you do. I mean, look at when Nixon fired Archibald Cox. What did William Ruckelshaus do? He came out and he said, that's it. I can't work for you anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's what these people should be doing.
I agree.
Walking out.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the process, and they should be doing so very loudly and very publicly. And in the process, they should be reaching out to Mike Pence and Paul Ryan and the people who, under the 25th Amendment, can initiate this process, which is the cabinet.
The entire Senate should be bitching about this.
Yeah, well, that's impeachment. Impeachment happens in the House and Senate. The 25th Amendment happens in the with the office of the Vice President and in the cabinet. Among the cabinet officials and who are in the line of secession, by the way, of presidential secession. And so it basically follows that protocol. And this guy is part of that group. He's not part of the elected members of the House and Senate. But the idea that that a group of people inside the administration who were not elected by anybody have taken over the reins of government is, frankly, horrifying to me.
Frightening. It's frightening.
Indeed. I mean, it's a coup. And can you imagine? I mean, I'm sure that there's a bunch of Democrats who are going around, who are sitting around, or people on the political left, in quotes, who are sitting around going, well, thank God somebody's got us protected from Donald Trump. I'm sorry. Put the shoe on the other foot. Can you imagine if when Bill Clinton was president, somebody had published an op-ed in the New York, or when Barack Obama was president, to make it more current, if somebody had published an op-ed in the New York Times saying, Obama's doing this crazy stuff with Iran, he's cutting a deal with them, he's normalizing relations with Cuba, we think this is very dangerous, you've got a theocratic autocrat in Iran, you've got a communist dictatorship in Cuba, and Obama is sucking up to them, don't worry, we're going to stop him, we have taken over. We would be going nuts.
I know. Absolutely.
So.
But I just want to mention that this is not new news. This is old news because people have been covering up for him since day one.
Well, yeah, it's old news in that it's a year and a half old, but it's new news as in this is the first time in the administration of any president of the United States that A, we've seen such an incompetent and arguably mentally ill person in the White House, and B, that somebody in the White House or in the administration has stepped forward and said, don't worry, I'm taking charge. With the exception of Al Haig, and he was just talking about, don't worry, if there's a nuclear war, I'm here for you. That he was not asserting that he was going to run the government for the rest of the Reagan administration. Marcia, thank you for the call. Well said. We'll be right back. It's 23 minutes past the hour. Hey, Thom Hartmann here. Here's what you might. Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate it if you go to thomhartmann.com. And welcome back, Thom Hartmann here with you. And boy, what a day! There is, it's just this is incredible. So, is the author of the New York Times op-ed a patriot or a traitor who is part of a coup? I am taking the latter position. That if when Barack Obama was president of the United States, if a small group of people inside the White House had published an op-ed in the New York Times saying Obama has gone off the rails, he is cutting a deal with the communist dictator of Cuba, Fidel Castro. He's cutting a deal with him to normalize relationships with Cuba. Unheard of. And he's cutting a deal with the theocratic dictators of Iran, the mullahs, to normalize relationships with Iran. We cannot allow this. This is beyond the pale. This is not what Americans want, they would say. And therefore, we are sabotaging his efforts. Can you imagine how we would react? I mean, this is not the time for the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thinking. This is the time for a clear-headed perspective on this, knowing exactly what's going on. Tyrone in New York City. Hey, Tyrone, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, Tom?
Good. What's on your
Yeah, you said everything that I'm thinking. You said everything that I was thinking about. I think I listened to you too much.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Because when this is a Republican coup. Not going to say that it's a Democratic coup because they already stated that they are part of the Republican, this whole Republican mantra, and they have already stated that this is what they're doing to keep our country safe.
Right, the they being this op-ed author and his buddies.
Yes.
And I say his, we don't know, but probably.
Yes. And because we continue to ignore the fact that this has been going on since back Nixon time, this cancer of anti-government, anti-American sentiments that's been running through this Republican Party, and only has been getting stronger because they just disregard the rule of law in this country.
That's a really important point, Tyrone, if I may. Essentially, what these guys are saying is we're Republicans. We don't respect the rule of law. We don't respect elections. We never have. We helped Nixon steal an election by sabotaging the Vietnam talks. We helped Reagan steal an election by sabotaging Carter's efforts to get the hostages back. We don't, So yeah, of course, we'll take over the White House and run it to the benefit of the billionaires. No problem. We like tax cuts and deregulation, which basically they said in the op-ed. Tyrone, you nailed it. Thanks so much for the call. We'll be back with more of your calls, my thoughts, and the news of the day. And we'll pick up a few pieces of the hearings, too, as we continue through the day.
Listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Well, it's that time of year again. The Free Speech TV fund drive, pledge drive, membership drive. I'm not sure the official name of it, but I think it's the fall pledge drive. And fall is here. Boy, is it here. And the bills are coming due at Free Speech TV. They have to pay for satellite fees. They have to pay for transmission, you know, to get this show from us to them and to get the show from them to you. They have to pay for their staff. It's a small staff. The entire television network runs on a budget that's smaller than 1 hour, the budget of 1 hour of the programming on, for example, MSNBC. I mean, they are truly doing amazing things with very little money. And they're doing it as a nonprofit that is owned by all of us, essentially. You know, there literally is no owner. It's you. You are Free Speech TV. And so we have to come to you and say, or Free Speech TV has to come to you and say, please help. And I'm doing that on their behalf. And also, you know, obviously, if Free Speech TV goes away, my show is not on your TV set anymore. So I have a very big concern about this too. We need to keep this network on the air. And the only way we can do that is if you call now, 877-378-8669. That is the telephone number, isn't it, Nate? Yeah, okay, 877-378-8669. I've done so many of these for years, even though it's not written down on my stuff. I can do it from memory. And let them know that you'd like to support Free Speech TV. You can make a gift of any amount. You can make a gift on a recurring basis or not. You can say, ding my credit card every month for $5 or $10 or whatever. Or you can simply say, here's my $12.50 contribution. It's what I can afford. Or here's my $12,000 contribution. Whatever you can afford that you think reflects the value of the programming that you're getting from Free Speech TV. I think I can say with a fairly high level of certainty that the quality of programming on this network is not matched anywhere else. You don't find this quality of programming on NPR. You don't find it on public television. You don't find it on your local cable channel and your local cable shows. You're certainly not going to find it in the corporate media in the United States. It's here on Free Speech TV. And it's here because for, I think it's 17 or 18 years now, maybe a little longer, people like you have called in during the pledge drives and said, yes, please stay alive, keep going, we want more. And so as we begin this election season, and I realize it's a tough one, there's a lot of candidates out there, a lot of great candidates who are asking for your support, and there's a lot of things you can do with them. You can phone bank, you can go door to door, you can call your friends, you can essentially lobby on their behalf. But with Free Speech TV, basically the only way you can help, well, obviously you can tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV, but the main way that you can help is by calling now, 877-378-8669, and making a contribution. With a $30 gift, you get the Vote 11-6-18, November 6th of this year bumper sticker, and a Vote Free Speech TV button. With the $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. This is a book this is a comic book, essentially. It's illustrated, but it's based on, as I recall, either 8 or 10 chapters, and each one is based on a fairly long op-ed that I wrote. This is as solid as any book you'll ever have, and yet it's perfect to, leave in the bathroom where people can pick it up or just share with your kids or put it on their coffee table. It's a great book. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray Made in the USA t-shirt. Unlike the Trump paraphernalia, it's actually made in the U.S., and the bumper sticker. And a $120 gift can also be $10 a month. With a $240 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV hoodie kit. And that's the Vote Free Speech TV logo gray Made in the USA zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the aluminum button, 2¼ inch Vote Free Speech TV, and the Vote 11-6-18 bumper sticker. With a $360 gift, which can be $30 a month for a year, you get the Vote for Our Future pack, which is the gray t-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweater, the hoodie, the 2¼ inch diameter aluminum button, and the Vote 11-6-18 bumper sticker. With a $480 gift, that's That would be $40 a month if you want to do that for the year. You get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. You get the Vote Free Speech TV logo T-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the Vote Free Speech TV button, and the Vote Free Speech TV November 6, 2018 bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and I'll take you to lunch. We just had 3 weeks ago or so, we had a group of people come here from all over the country. It was just marvelous. And they hung out in our studio for the last hour of the show, and then we walked to a nearby restaurant and had a really nice meal. Got to know some great people. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. Aboard, it's a once-in-a-lifetime luxury Alaskan cruise on the Regent 7th Sea Mariner, July 24th, 2019. For more information, Keen Luxury Travel, 800-856-1155. And did I mention, we'll be getting active on board with special events with yours truly me as we visit Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, Sitka, Hubbard Glacier, and Anchorage. Welcome back. Welcome back. Am I back? I am back. Okay, I forgot to turn my volume back up. Here we are. Okay, so you've got my position on this. I'm lacking a word. What do you call somebody who plots and executes a coup? I mean, traditionally you've called that person a traitor, and apparently Melania Trump has just come out and called this person a traitor, who wrote this op-ed in the New York Times, and has some very strong language, and she said accusations can lead to severe consequences. Yeah, I mean, look at what happened in Turkey. I mean, in fact, it raises the question: is Trump going to do what Erdogan did in Turkey when a group of people plotted a coup against Erdogan? He was out of the country, and they took over the government while he was out of the country. He came back and he put 35,000 people in prison and executed a whole bunch of them. And I swear, it's got to be running through Donald Trump's mind right now. So. Anyhow, a lot on the table. Let's pick up some of your calls. Excuse me. Your thoughts on this. Lisa in Seattle. Hey, Lisa, what's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Tom. I agree with you about the New York Times article. I think it's a coup. But I have a theory. I think that with Kavanaugh being so close to being placed, I think this was always in the works. I think they know they have the Mad King in place, and that, the right wing, extreme right wing, and the religious people have wanted control of that Supreme Court. That was all they really wanted.
Yeah.
I think because he's so close to being placed, now they're starting their attack on Donald.
Well, and this raises another question: was this op-ed placed on the day that it was placed in order to push the Kavanaugh news off the front page, so that there wouldn't be pressure on the Senate not to confirm him?
Good point. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. That's a little more three-dimensional chess than I'm willing to get into. But good point,
well,
Lisa.
They've been playing us so much. I mean, they through distractions, through all kinds of things. The public has been being led for a long time. I really think this has to do with they're going to get their wish. They're going to get their 2 Supreme Court justices. They're going to tilt that court to the right, and that's all they really wanted.
Yeah, I think you may well be right. Lisa, thank you for the call. RJ, listening in San Jose, California, AM 910, our San Francisco affiliate. Hey, RJ, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Just really quick. This is a little bit off topic, but it occurred to me yesterday that if Trump has hundreds of pictures of Comey and Mueller kissing, the GOP still wouldn't want Jim and Bob to go get a cake at Masterpiece Cake Shop.
Okay. I get the joke. Thanks a lot, RJ. I appreciate it. Mary in Las Vegas. To more serious issues, you wanted to talk about the fetus funerals in Texas and Indiana?
Not Indiana, but I can chime in on the op-ed and the fetus thing. I mean, I feel like I need a new set of ears. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But as far as the op-ed goes, since my mind's there right now, I think it's that flashing red light we keep hearing about, and it was to put Congress on notice that inside that even though they're not openly expressing they know what's going on in that crazy White House, it's to put them on notice, let the American people know that Congress has been put on notice.
Yeah.
And I think that you're right. It probably could be somebody close to Pence that wrote this, because he's awful quiet.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, he's
Trump.
he's made a couple of public statements, and they have all contradicted Donald Trump's policies.
Well, he's just so devious and secretive, and I'm wondering if there is somebody who has a glimmer of knowledge of what happened in Helsinki for 2 hours with Putin.
Well, there's the translator, but we're not hearing from the translators. But yeah, I'm with you on Mike Pence. You look up Mike Pence in the dictionary. You look up smarmy in the dictionary, and you see a picture of Mike Pence. Yeah. Mary, thank you for the call. Let's see here, Gordon in Wheaton, Ohio. Hey, Gordon, you wanted to talk about Mike Pence?
Hi, yeah, it's Wheaton, Illinois.
Oh, Illinois, I'm sorry.
And I've said this before, but Pence, like you said, he feels like he's been ordained by God to be president. What I think he's going to do is he's setting up all the pieces now, and right after the whatever the presidential inauguration day, January 23rd, I think it is, then he's going to come through with the cabinet, go the 25th Amendment, and oust Trump. He's going to give the long national nightmare is over speech and come out the hero. He wants to have 10 years in office. So he's going to wait until 2 years and a day into the Trump administration.
Yep. I think that's possible, although events may overtake his schedule. But there's no doubt in my mind that Mike Pence is, being so smarmy and so suck-uppy, and on those rare occasions when he contradicts Trump, he does it in a way that it'll get into the press, but it probably won't make its way back to Trump. And certainly Fox News isn't going to report on it because they're all about massaging Trump's ego all the time. And so, I think, Pence, and this is why I think that probably Pence's speechwriter is the author, one of his speechwriters is the author of this piece. But I could be wrong. It could be somebody in the national security. This is the other theory that the White House has right now, is that it's somebody in one of the security agencies, the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, the Pentagon, whatever. You were going to say something else.
This is why it is so important for everybody to check their voter registration and to show up and vote. Show up, vote.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. Thank you very much for the call. Dick Durbin is speaking right now. Let's just check in and see and hear if he's saying something really consequential or not.
Sky case. You dissented from a decision upholding the Affordable Care Act and made a breathtaking claim of presidential power, which has been repeated over and over again. And you said, under the Constitution, the president may decline to enforce a statute that regulates private individuals when the president deems the statute unconstitutional, even if a court has held or would hold the statute constitutional. Your words. Of course, the unitary executive theory was the basis for President Bush's December 30th, 2005 signing statement claiming the authority to override the McCain torture amendment. Yesterday, I asked you what comments you made on the signing statement. As President Bush's staff secretary, Senator Feinstein asked a similar question this morning. What you told me was, I can't recall what I said. I do recall there was a good deal of internal debate about that signing statement, as you can imagine. I do remember it would be controversial internally. It's hard to imagine you can't remember that controversial issue. Given our concerns about your views on executive power, it's important for you at this moment, please, to clarify for us the power of the presidency in this age of Donald Trump.
This is going to get interesting.
Thank you. First, thank you for your comments about my wife and daughters. My daughters will return this afternoon for a return engagement, so they'll experience democracy once again in action, and I appreciate that. On Morrison versus Olson, a couple things at the outset. First, that case did not involve the special counsel system. I have written repeatedly that the traditional special counsel system, which we have now,
I'm going to take the show
had
back
historically.
Kavanaugh is essentially saying, I said the president has the authority to override the courts, but, which, by the way, is what Andrew Jackson did twice, right, with the Trail of Tears and with the Second National Bank. And it's what Abraham Lincoln did with Dred Scott. They all, in 3 cases, the Supreme Court was ignored by presidents of the United States. And Kavanaugh says, hey, that's just fine. And then, Dick Durbin confronts him about it, and Kavanaugh tries to say, well, that wasn't the actual case that we were talking about. It wasn't the special counsel law. Now, the principle is the principle. Come on. Dave in Federal Way, Washington. Hey, Dave, what's on your mind today?
Hey, not too much, Tom. The other day, I think it was Senator Leahy that was asking about the John Yoo and Kavanaugh, if they ever discussed, special rendition or torture or anything like that.
Right. John Yoo, along with Jay Bybee, the authors of the torture memos for Bush.
Yeah, and it really creeped me out because if you ever look at, John Yoo's website, he actually quotes Hugo Grotius a lot, and I'm like, oh, man, it's totally creepy to me. But the thing is question is this, because it hasn't been specifically asked, and I think the Democratic senators have done extraordinary. I mean, they really have. And but this question hasn't been asked specifically, so I want to get your take on it. Do you think Brett Kavanaugh believes that a president has the right and the authority to classify anything they deem necessary?
No. You're asking do I believe that?
Yeah, do you believe that Brett Kavanaugh, would, like I said, he hasn't been asked this specifically, okay? And I get it. I'm not faulting anyone for that because he's not going to tell the truth anyways. But the thing is do you believe, just based on what he said, some hints he's given about his perspective on executive privilege, do you think he would believe, do you think he believes that President Pence or President Trump could classify anything they want?
Yeah, that's the essence of what Dick Durbin was just talking about. Is the unitary executive really what the founders had in mind? And clearly it is not. I mean, go back. Alexander Hamilton proposed this, by the way, on the first day of the Constitutional Convention, that the President of the United States should be referred to as His Highness, and that it should be a lifetime appointment. And he was laughed down. He was so humiliated and angered by that he left and went back to New York, left Philadelphia, went back to New York for 2 months, refused to participate in the Constitutional Convention, finally came back with his tail between his legs. But, absolutely, the president does have the power to classify and to declassify, but it is subject to oversight by both Congress and the courts. And just as the courts and Congress have powers in a similar fashion, in a limited fashion, particularly the courts. But that's my opinion on it, Dave. Did you want to comment on that, or was that just your question?
Well, no, I think you have a sense of how dangerous that could be. I mean,
that's my point. That's why we have oversight by other branches.
Yeah, but I mean, the president could classify anything, say we have, the intelligence community has, 60, 70% fidelity on something. Trump could say, well, I believe there's 100%. I believe.
Well, let me give you an actual example of this, Dave. The Rudy Giuliani, there's a profile of Rudy Giuliani in the New Yorker right now. It came out this last weekend. And in it, the Giuliani was asked, if Robert Mueller comes up with a final report, if he doesn't indict Trump, but instead he comes up with a report to give to the House of Representatives and the Senate that would be the basis of an impeachment, that chronicles and lists the high crimes and misdemeanors and perhaps even treasons of Donald Trump and his family, the Trump crime family and his associates. If he does that, what will Trump do? And Giuliani said that Trump will classify it and keep it from both the American people and from Congress. Trump will prevent Congress from seeing Mueller's. Here's the exact quote. This is he said, I am sure he will. He said, Trump reserves the right to object to the public disclosure of information that might be covered by executive privilege. I am sure he will. And, so here's an example of it. Trump is right now, Trump's lawyer is saying, when Mueller comes out with a report, I'm going to call it classified, and I'm going to prevent even the House of Representatives or the Senate from seeing it. How's that, Dave?
Yeah. The only thing we have in there is the DNI, but the DNI is an extra constitutional position, and Trump can just fire him. I don't see this as going. We're in fascism. I mean, I can't see. I'm trying to argue my way out of that because I don't want to believe it, but I can't. I don't see how we're not in fascism, to be quite honest with you.
Well, yeah,
Anyways.
I would say we've been in fascism for a long time if you use the definition of the capture of government by corporate forces, and the Buckley decision set that up in 1976, and Citizens United put it into law. But fascism is a tricky word. People think that you mean Nazism, and neither of us are talking about Nazism. But I think that we are experiencing, as we saw in this op-ed in the New York Times, we are experiencing a coup d'etat that has already happened inside the Trump administration. And that, I think, is a very bad thing. We are in the midst of a constitutional crisis right now, in my humble opinion, 10 minutes before the hour.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be back right back with more of your calls on this and all the other news of the day. Stick around. Thank you. And welcome back. Zach in Hollywood, California. Hey, Zach, what's on your mind today? Zach, you are on the air.
Oh, I'm right here. You can hear me?
Yeah, just fine.
Okay. We've got to keep saying illegitimate and illegal. The 2016 election should be revoked.
Yeah, although there's no constitutional basis for that, but I agree.
Every appointment and person, every legislative action should be considered illegitimate, including Mike Pence.
Yeah.
And Deep Throat, whoever it is, they're trying to sever themselves from Trump so he doesn't drag them down with him. You know what? We've got to reestablish the EPA and the FCC as legitimate, functioning entities. And we've got to realize we're not the left. They've been screaming the left for 35, 40 years. It's just the rest of us, Tom.
We are the center.
We are the center. It's the rest of us party against the teeny tiny Tea Party. We've got to realize it. Blue Wave, love you guys.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Zach.
All right.
Good talking with you. Yeah, it's us against the, you say the Tea Party, I say the billionaires who funded the Tea Party. I mean, let's go to first principles, to the larger picture here. Harrison in Seattle, Washington. Hey, Harrison, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Excellent take, as always. I find it really telling that Gary Cohn copped to pulling the South Korea free trade agreement off Trump's desk before he could sign it. Thought that was really interesting. And aren't the percentages just that this is someone in the Koch network? I mean, they basically own the administration. What do you think?
The Koch network, yeah. In fact, there's a fascinating op-ed that I printed out, and I was going to get into a rant about. Actually, I've got it over here. But probably today there will not be time for it. But it's in the New York, so I'll discuss it later on. But this is from actually a couple of weeks ago by Thomas Edsall. No, it's actually September 6th. This is from this week. In fact, it's from today. It's titled, "Trump and the Koch brothers are working in concert." And the subhead is, "They disagree about trade, tariffs, and immigration, but don't be fooled. Neither side can get what it really wants without help from the other." And it's all about how the billionaire Koch brothers and their buddies have helped make Donald Trump president and got exactly what they wanted with the tax breaks. They got exactly what they wanted with Ryan Zinke in the Interior Department, who is privatizing public lands so that they can be bought by mining and drilling interests. They got exactly what they want in Scott Pruitt, and now Mr. Wheeler, who has replaced him at the EPA, who is deregulating and doing away with regulations that keep the air and water clean and pure and protect us. And they're doing this in favor of the Kochs and their buddies, the billionaires in the fossil fuel industry, et cetera, et cetera. I could go through the long list, but it would take the next 5 minutes. But yeah, I'm totally with you, Harrison.
And what are the odds that this is his ability to declare martial law? The country's in peril.
Well, that's something that is tremendously concerning. And, if Donald Trump, if his administration does not track down whoever is running this coup in the White House, and I predict that they will, and that there will be severe consequences and people are going to go to prison. But if they don't, they're going to have a really serious problem. Harrison, thank you for the call, and thanks for listening to KBCS. We'll be right back at 7 minutes before the hour. Hey, Thom Hartmann here. Here's what... Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com. Thom Hartmann here with you, and what a day, right? It's just, let's see here. Mike, who is watching us on Facebook Live right now in Quincy, Illinois. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hey, Tom, how you doing today?
Good. What's on your mind?
What was on my mind is if Pence is the author of this New York op-ed.
Or if one of his minions is the author. I think that's more likely, but yeah.
Well, what do you think the fallout's going to look like once 45 in there, I hate to even use his name, once he finds out that Pence was behind it?
It's very difficult to predict what Donald Trump is going to do. That's part of the problem. And I was just watching with my mouth open yesterday on both CNN and MSNBC as commentator after commentator came on these various shows, particularly the pundit class, and it's probably one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of putting pundits on this show, and just said, essentially, thank God the Republic is protected from a crazy man in the White House. And I'm like, it's a friggin' coup. Thank God, really? I mean, we're setting a precedent. I mean, imagine if Elizabeth Warren is elected president in 2020, and in the first year or the second year of her administration, there's a group inside the administration that says, we can't have Medicare for all. That's socialism. This woman is trying to take us down the road of the Soviet Union. We are launching a coup. And they publish an op-ed in the New York Times saying, don't worry, America, we've got this. We're going to block President Warren from doing it. How would we be responding? Would be, maybe on Fox News they'd be going, oh, thank you, thank God the Republic is safe. This is crazy talk. This is crazy talk. So, anyhow, thanks a lot for the call, Mike. I'm with you. Coit in Missoula, Montana. Hey, Coit, we got a minute to the break. What's up?
Actually, it should be Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry, Scott. Yeah. What's up?
No problem. So I'm of the mind of Noam Chomsky, who has noted that while all this is going on and distracting us, we're not paying attention to a second round of tax cuts that are coming up.
Yep.
The NDAA didn't do anything to stop the horror that's going on in Yemen, which nobody really talks about.
And Afghanistan and Iraq, for that matter.
Exactly. And so, this is just a distraction.
This is not just a distraction, but it is a distraction. I would elide the word just.
Well, understood, and indeed it is a coup, and it's what, I guess for lack of a better word, the deep state taking back control.
Yeah. Again, I don't think this is the deep state, Scott. What you have is a group of people inside the White House who are so in love with the hardcore right-wing policies that the Koch brothers have dictated that are being set by Trump, the tax cuts and deregulation, that they're willing to stage a coup to keep it going.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com. Well, it's that time of year again. The Free Speech TV fund drive, pledge drive, membership drive. I'm not sure the official name of it, but I think it's the fall pledge drive. And fall is here. Boy, is it here. And the bills are coming due at Free Speech TV. They have to pay for satellite fees. They have to pay for transmission, to get this show from us to them and to get the show from them to you. They have to pay for their staff. It's a small staff. The entire television network runs on a budget that's smaller than 1 hour, the budget of 1 hour of the programming on, for example, MSNBC. They are truly doing amazing things with very little money. And they're doing it as a nonprofit that is owned by all of us, essentially. There literally is no owner. It's you. You are Free Speech TV. And so we have to come to you and say, or Free Speech TV has to come to you and say, please help. And I'm doing that on their behalf. And also, obviously, if Free Speech TV goes away, my show is not on your TV set anymore. So I have a very big concern about this too. We need to keep this network on the air. And the only way we can do that is if you call now, 877-378-8669. That is the telephone number, isn't it, Nate? Yeah, okay, 877-378-8669. I've done so many of these for years, even though it's not written down on my stuff. I can do it from memory. And let them know that you'd like to support Free Speech TV. You can make a gift of any amount. You can make a gift on a recurring basis or not. You can say, ding my credit card every month for $5 or $10 or whatever, or you can simply say, here's my $12.50 contribution. It's what I can afford. Or here's my $12,000 contribution. Whatever you can afford that you think reflects the value of the programming that you're getting from Free Speech TV. I think I can say with a fairly high level of certainty that the quality of programming on this network is not matched anywhere else. You don't find this quality of programming on NPR. You don't find it on public television. You don't find it on your local cable channel and your local cable shows. You're certainly not going to find it in the corporate media in the United States. It's here on Free Speech TV. And it's here because for, I think it's 17 or 18 years now, maybe a little longer, people like you have called in during the pledge drives and said, yes, please stay alive, keep going. We want more. And so as we begin this election season, and I realize it's a tough one, there's a lot of candidates out there, a lot of great candidates who are asking for your support. And there's a lot of things you can do with them. You can phone bank, you can go door to door, you can call your friends, you can essentially lobby on their behalf. But with Free Speech TV, basically the only way you can help, well, obviously you can tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV, but the main way that you can help is by calling now, 877-378-8669, and making a contribution. With a $30 gift, you get the Vote 11-6-18, November 6th of this year bumper sticker, and a Vote Free Speech TV button. With the $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. This is a book this is a comic book, essentially. It's illustrated but it's based on, as I recall, either 8 or 10 chapters, and each one is based on a fairly long op-ed that I wrote. This is as solid as any book you'll ever have, and yet it's perfect to, leave in the bathroom where people can pick it up, or just share with your kids, or put it on their coffee table. It's a great book. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray Made in the USA T-shirt. Unlike the Trump paraphernalia, it's actually made in the U.S., and the bumper sticker. With a $120 gift can also be $10 a month. With a $240 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV hoodie kit. And that's the Vote Free Speech TV logo gray Made in the USA zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the aluminum button, 2¼ inch Vote Free Speech TV, and the Vote 11618 bumper sticker. With a $360 gift, which can be $30 a month for a year, you get the Vote for Our Future pack, which is the gray T-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweater, the hoodie, the 2¼ inch diameter aluminum button, and the Vote 11618 bumper sticker. With a $480 gift, that would be $40 a month if you want to do that for the year. You get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. You get the Vote Free Speech TV logo T-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the Vote Free Speech TV button, and the Vote Free Speech TV November 6, 2018 bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and I'll take you to lunch. We just had 3 weeks ago or so, we had a group of people come here from all over the country. It was just marvelous. And they hung out in our studio for the last hour of the show, and then we walked to a nearby restaurant and had a really nice meal. Got to know some great people. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Our program available all over the world. We're also, I was mentioning the different ways you can get our show from Sirius XM to commercial and non-commercial stations, our Pacifica affiliates. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Patreon. We're on Free Speech TV on Dish Network, DirecTV, Sling TV, Roku. We're also on TuneIn, and in fact, if you got one of those little Alexa boxes, you can say, Alexa, play Thom Hartmann. And while we're live, it'll bring the show up. And there are free podcasts over at Apple, and of course, regular podcasts available on our website, thomhartmann.com. Just an FYI. How Trump, Joe Conason writing in the National Memo, how Trump will rig his own case. This is the elephant in the room that is only rarely mentioned in these hearings, and when it is mentioned, it's mentioned in a tangential or peripheral way, because the senators, the Democratic senators who bring this up, are trying to, engage in decorum. I mean, forget that John Cornyn this morning, when Cory Booker said, I'm going to release these papers anyway. I mean, this was, and then every other Democrat on the committee said, me too, or I'm with Cory. As did Chuck Schumer, who's not even on the committee. So, but Cory Booker came out and he said this unilaterally, all by himself. He said there's this email that Brett Kavanaugh is part of that's talking about racial profiling. And this was in the context of 9/11 and security and TSA and all that kind of stuff. He said there's an email where he's talking about racial profiling, and you are blocking it, Mr. Grassley, from being part of the record so that I can't even ask Kavanaugh a question about it. And I'm going to release it to the press. And you can find it all over this morning. And, Kavanaugh is going off on his high-sounding, we want to reach a time when, there's no consideration of race, which means no more affirmative action, no more anti-discrimination laws. I mean, this is the direction that these guys have been proudly proclaiming that they want to go ever since Brown v. Board. When there was Brown v. Board, and then there was Brown v. Board 2, in 54 and 56. And Brown v. Ward 2 actually ordered forced integration, forced busing. And that was when the Republicans began this mantra. Well, actually, it was a lot of Southern Democrats at that point in time as well. It was in both parties. The Democrats repudiated it in 1965. Well, largely repudiated that part of it with the election of John Kennedy in 1960. But the Democrats said, no, I mean, we've got centuries, 400 years of not just, racial preferences and racial discrimination, but of actual genocide and slavery based on race, Native Americans and African Americans, among others. But principally those two groups. We have this long history of this, and it's going to take a little while recognizing race to clean up from this. And in this email exchange where they were discussing this broad concept of whether basically TSA agents should be able to pull people out of line because they look Middle Eastern. And Kavanaugh, part of the discussion in the email thread was, well, these people are really slick. These Saudi terrorists, the majority of the 9/11 terrorists were Saudis, of course. He was getting back on his hobby horse of, well, we need to get to the point in time where there's no consideration of race. And of course, that's the big picture that Cory Booker was objecting to, the African-American senator from New Jersey, saying, wait a minute, is this really your thinking? Do you think that we don't need anti-discrimination laws? I mean, that was the essence of the Supreme Court in the case where they gutted the Voting Rights Act. Is it Shelby County, that case? I believe. In any case, that was the essence of the debate, was, everything's fine now. Yes, the Senate voted 98-0 to renew the Voting Rights Act unanimously or nearly unanimously. I think there were a couple of dead members at the time or missing members, whatever. But it doesn't matter what the elected representatives of the people chose. What matters is what we, the 10 justices or 9 justices on the Supreme Court, have to say. I'm getting ahead of myself here because I'm thinking that the next Democratic president needs to add 1 or 2. But that's a whole other conversation for another time. So what Joe Conason is saying is that in addition to Kavanaugh's extreme views on abortion, on labor, I'm reading from his piece actually, Kavanaugh's established record of extreme views on abortion, labor, environmental protection, gun control, civil liberties, and voting rights. We have this whole other thing, which is what Kavanaugh basically leaked into the press and lobbied to get into the press so that Donald Trump would see it, so that Donald Trump would add him to the list of potential nominees that the Federalist Society, had come up with. Knowing, Brett Kavanaugh, this is a very smart man. And apparently a very power-hungry man, willing to do pretty much anything. And apparently, by the way, a man who has a problem with money. Last year, he had $200,000 in credit card debts, according to his financial disclosure forms. This year, 0. How do you run up $200,000 in credit card debt? Number one, there are some who are concerned that he may have a gambling problem and that he might have been laundering his gambling money with baseball tickets because he was buying tens of thousands of dollars worth of baseball tickets. Or maybe it's something else. And I would love to see somebody, a member of the Senate, ask him, who paid off your credit cards? Was it the Koch brothers? Was it Donald Trump? Who cleaned you up so that you could come into this hearing? And what kind of problem do you have that puts you $200,000 in debt to begin with? These are issues that speak to his character. And the reason why I just went into that digression is because I was talking about his character, him trying to get himself on the Supreme Court by pushing out into the news through surrogates the fact that he believes that a sitting president cannot be even questioned if there's evidence that that sitting president has committed a crime, a felony. Because the sitting president is so busy with such important work, as I saw in the Bush administration. George Bush was so busy, all because of 9/11. My rebuttal to that would be Donald Trump has spent 1 out of every 3 days since he has been president on one of his own golf courses playing golf. Are you really telling me this guy is too busy to do a deposition? This guy is too busy to answer questions about crimes he might have committed? Seriously? That's what you're trying to tell me, Brett Kavanaugh? But the point of Joe Conison's piece, and I think it's a really good point, it's a point that I've been making ever since I first noticed that Kavanaugh was trying to get his name in the press, and then a few weeks later, Trump put him on the list of potential nominees that had been originally provided to him by Joe, what's his name, the guy from the, Joe Black, I think is his name, whatever it is, who was the guy from the Federalist Society. Heavily funded by the Koch brothers, among others, by the way. That, when I noticed that Kavanaugh was doing this and that then Trump added him to the list, on the air, those of you who've been listening to the program for years, you heard me say it. Trump's going to pick Kavanaugh. Why? He's trying to rig his own case. He's trying to pick his own judge. He wants to have somebody in the room with the other 8 Supreme Court justices arguing that they should not rule that he has to submit to questioning. Trump wants somebody in the room with the Supreme Court justices who will overturn the Nixon precedent. In the case of Nixon, the Supreme Court said yes. Well, and there's also the Paula Jones versus Bill Clinton precedent. But in U.S. v. Nixon, the Supreme Court said the president is not above the law. If a congressional committee or a court orders subpoenas the White House tapes, he has to provide them. And Nixon, to his credit, provided them. Which, by the way, is the opposite of what's happening right now in the Kavanaugh hearings, where only 7% of Brett Kavanaugh's papers and documents have been revealed, not just to you and me, the American people, but to the Democratic members of the committee. The Republicans are holding these things and refusing to let the Democrats see them. Hundreds of thousands of documents. This is how desperate Donald Trump is to get Kavanaugh on the bench. The right-wing billionaires want Kavanaugh on the bench because he believes in this doctrine that I talked about briefly yesterday. I talked about the Chevron deference, and I talked about mens rea, excuse me, state of mind. These are 2 doctrines that they want to see put into law, the Koch brothers and the other right-wing billionaires. In the case of the Chevron deference, it means that the EPA can no longer regulate things that are not specifically mentioned in legislation, which on its face sounds reasonable, but it's totally unreasonable. It's, as I said yesterday, it's like my sticking up a 7-Eleven, and then when I get arrested saying, yeah, there's specific laws against robbing banks. There's specific laws against robbing pharmacies. There's no specific law against robbing a 7-Eleven, so you have to let me go. And this is the argument that Ann Gorsuch, Neil Gorsuch's mother, made when she was Reagan's EPA administrator before she resigned in disgrace. She made this argument. It went all the way to the Supreme Court in the case of Chevron versus National Resource Defense Council, the NRDC. And she said that because the legislation that created the EPA does not mention the word mercury, the EPA cannot regulate mercury, even though mercury is a known neurotoxin that is killing and that is poisoning our children. It's in our water. It damages people. And she lost that case. The Supreme Court said no. If the deference that you have to give is to the regulatory agency, unless you can prove that they're doing something out of malice or out of incompetence, you have to defer to their judgment. And the mens rea, that's the thing where the right-wing billionaires, the CEOs of corporate America want it. And by the way, mens rea was discussed this morning. I keep telling you, look out for this stuff, right? And sure enough, they brought up mens rea this morning. And that's the doctrine that if a CEO of a company says, the guy running General Motors back in the day, or Ford back in the day, says, oh, yeah, you could put that gas tank in the back, no problem, or put the side saddle gas tanks, General Motors and the Chevy trucks, put the side saddle gas tanks on there. It'll save us $5 a car. We'll make an extra $20 million this year. Without having the intention of turning those cars into fireballs, into torches, and killing many, many people, which happened, by the way. The mens rea argument says if he didn't intend for those people to die, you can't prosecute him.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So Trump is trying to rig his own case, and the billionaires love it because Kavanaugh is going to go along with their agenda, too. We'll be back with your calls. Welcome back. Harry in Horseshoe, Texas. Hey, Harry, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind?
Yes, Mr. Hartman, first-time caller. I very much appreciate you educating all your listeners on Free Speech TV. You are, like I am, a person who has pursued a lifetime of continuing education, and I'm quite impressed with your attention to every detail in your books.
Thank you.
As Mr. Pocan mentioned once on one of your episodes, he joined ALEC for a while just to find out what's really going on behind closed doors.
Right.
Well, I heard that a while back, a couple of years ago, and I, too, have been a member of the American Legislative Exchange Council for the past year.
Are you a legislator, Harry?
No, sir, I am not. I'm a Federal Academy graduate, and I have a lot of contacts amongst
I thought only state
Academy
legislators could be members of ALEC.
who are also, no.
Oh, okay.
It's
Learn something
about
new
how
every
much
day.
money
Thank you.
Contribute. It's how much money you contribute and whether you happen to be a member of a certain federal academy or not, and so forth and so on, and certain legal organizations also.
Sure. Okay.
And often the screening is not what it should be. But anyway, make a long story short, I was wondering if you're familiar with the PR Watch article that appeared August 7th, 2018, authored by Mary Botari. Okay.
Don't think I am.
Okay. In this, basically, it discloses the agenda during the ALEC 45th annual meeting of legislators and corporate lobbyists at the Hilton New Orleans Riverside Hotel. I attended that. And I happened to attend a little gathering behind closed doors which discussed the draft reforming how federal grants are provided to the state. Also, another little meeting, draft resolution to restore the division of government responsibilities between the national government and the states. Resolution concerning the EPA's new source review regulation.
There you go.
Which you just alluded to.
Yep.
How they are going to require the EPA to be bound by legislation.
Yep.
I also attended another little meeting, Medical Freedom Act. I encourage all of your listeners, like I usually do, to research the American Legislative Exchange Council, American City County Exchange, because in these meetings, they lay out the groundwork for legislation they're going to hand over to their duplicitous legislators, both representatives and senators, at both the national level and state level. And this is what we as citizens and concerned citizens of this country need to watch out for before it is introduced. This is their game plan. This little Medical Freedom Act is going to gut the Affordable Care Act. I can tell you that. Okay?
Yep.
And I don't want to get too much further, but I encourage everybody that's listening that really wants to see what ALEC and the ACCEC, American City Council Exchange, are up to.
Yeah.
Join these organizations or somehow find out to get behind these closed doors.
Right. Harry, thank you for that. Yeah, I'm with you. Harry, thanks so much for that. And please call in again and keep us up to date on those things. I was not familiar with the PR Watch story, but I am familiar with ALEC. And spot on. Everything you said, spot on. Thank you, Harry. Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com TomHartman.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's TomHartman.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to TomHartman.com.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program
Thom
on
Hartmann here
Facebook,
with
Twitter,
you, and I want to just finish up some of the news of the day stuff, and then I'll be picking up your phone calls here. In Joe Conison's piece, he talks about how Trump's former attorney general, or former attorney rather, is headed to prison, Michael Cohen. His former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, heading to prison. His corporate accountant, who has signed a cooperation agreement. He's now working with the prosecutors. This is a guy who worked for Trump's daddy. He knows where all the bodies are buried. The special counsel is probing into his campaign, Trump's campaign's alleged conspiracy with agents of a foreign power, and at the very least, Russia, and perhaps other countries as well. I would want to be looking at what he's doing with Bibi Netanyahu as well, and his own alleged attempts to obstruct that investigation. His threats, his attempted obstruction of justice, and perhaps actual obstruction of justice in threatening to fire Attorney General Jeff Sessions. And now he wants to put this guy on the Supreme Court who says, number one, the state of mind of corporate CEOs should be taken into consideration if you're going to prosecute them. Now, let's acknowledge it has been 30, 40 years outside of Enron. I think Enron was the last time we saw any corporate CEOs seriously prosecuted. Right? Jeffrey Skilling is sitting in jail right now, and Ken Lay is dead. Or is he? That's a whole other thing. but that was a long time ago. Right? I mean, that was a prosecution that was begun during the Bill Clinton administration, as I recall, and followed up with George W. Bush, although I may have my timelines wrong. But it's been a long time. And he wants to make sure that that continues. Brett Kavanaugh does, by saying, this doctrine that the Koch brothers have been pushing, that if a corporate CEO makes decisions, like ExxonMobil, they decided to skimp on safety with the Exxon, or not the Exxon Valdez, with that oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm forgetting the name of it. And from Kavanaugh's point of view, the only people who should be held accountable for that are it was the guys, what was it, 11 people or 15 people who were working on the rig who died. Not the executives who made the decision to cut back on safety, because they didn't intend to kill people. So that's the mens rea thing. The Chevron deference. He wants to do away with the Chevron deference, which says that a regulatory agency, if the EPA is told clean up the air, they spend years bringing in authorities and experts to determine how do you clean up the air best, what are the worst pollutants, and then they put into place regulations to do that. These guys want to blow up all of that stuff. All the things that protect us, that protect our environment, that protect our pharmaceuticals, that protect our food supply, that protect our children. They want to blow it all up. And then, of course, Kavanaugh also wants to say, and you can't go after Trump, no matter what, because he's putting me on the Supreme Court.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And then on top of this, we've got an active coup going on inside the Trump administration, which I ranted about at length in the last hour. We'll pick up your calls after the break. Well, it's that time of year again. The Free Speech TV fund drive, pledge drive, membership drive. I'm not sure the official name of it, but I think it's the fall pledge drive. And fall is here. Boy, is it here. And the bills are coming due at Free Speech TV. They have to pay for satellite fees. They have to pay for transmission, to get this show from us to them and to get the show from them to you. They have to pay for their staff. It's a small staff. The entire television network runs on a budget that's smaller than 1 hour, the budget of 1 hour of the programming on, for example, MSNBC. I mean, they are truly doing amazing things with very little money. And they're doing it as a nonprofit that is owned by all of us, essentially. You know, there literally is no owner. It's you. You are Free Speech TV. And so we have to come to you and say, or Free Speech TV has to come to you and say, please help. And I'm doing that on their behalf. And also, you know, obviously, if Free Speech TV goes away, my show is not on your TV set anymore. So I have a very big concern about this too. We need to keep this network on the air. And the only way we can do that is if you call now, 877-378-8669. That is the telephone number, isn't it, Nate? Yeah, okay, 877-378-8669. I've done so many of these for years, even though it's not written down on my stuff. I can do it from memory. And let them know that you'd like to support Free Speech TV. You can make a gift of any amount. You can make a gift on a recurring basis or not. You can say, ding my credit card every month for $5 or $10 or whatever, or you can simply say, here's my $12.50 contribution. It's what I can afford. Or here's my $12,000 contribution. Whatever you can afford that you think reflects the value of the programming that you're getting from Free Speech TV. I think I can say with a fairly high level of certainty that the quality of programming on this network is not matched anywhere else. You don't find this quality of programming on NPR. You don't find it on public television. You don't find it on your local cable channel and your local cable shows. You're certainly not going to find it in the corporate media in the United States. It's here on Free Speech TV. And it's here because for, I think it's 17 or 18 years now, maybe a little longer, people like you have called in during the pledge drives and said, yes, please stay alive, keep going, we want more. And so as we begin this election season, and I realize it's a tough one, there's a lot of candidates out there, a lot of great candidates who are asking for your support, and there's a lot of things you can do with them. You can phone bank, you can go door to door, you can call your friends, you can essentially lobby on their behalf. But with Free Speech TV, basically the only way you can help, well, obviously you can tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV, but the main way that you can help is by calling now, 877-378-8669, and making a contribution. With a $30 gift, you get the Vote 11-6-18, November 6th of this year bumper sticker, and a Vote Free Speech TV button. With the $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. This is a book this is a comic book, essentially. It's illustrated, but it's based on, as I recall, either 8 or 10 chapters, and each one is based on a fairly long op-ed that I wrote. This is as solid as any book you'll ever have, and yet it's perfect to, leave in the bathroom where people can pick it up or just share with your kids or put it on the coffee table. It's a great book. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray Made in the USA t-shirt. Unlike the Trump paraphernalia, it's actually made in the U.S., and the bumper sticker. With a $120 gift can also be $10 a month. With a $240 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV hoodie kit. And that's the Vote Free Speech TV logo gray Made in the USA zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the aluminum button, 2¼ inch Vote Free Speech TV, and the Vote 11-6-18 bumper sticker. With a $360 gift, which can be $30 a month for a year, you get the Vote for Our Future pack, which is the gray t-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweater, the hoodie, the 2¼ inch diameter aluminum button, and the Vote 11-6-18 bumper sticker. With a $480 gift, that would be $40 a month if you want to do that for the year. You get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. You get the Vote Free Speech TV logo t-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the Vote Free Speech TV button, and the Vote Free Speech TV November 6, 2018 bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and I'll take you to lunch. We just had 10 3 weeks ago or so. We had a group of people come here from all over the country. It was just marvelous. And they hung out in our studio for the last hour of the show, and then we walked to a nearby restaurant and had a really nice meal. Got to know some great people. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you. Thom Hartmann. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Thomas Neuberger has just published a piece over common dreams that I find absolutely fascinating, and I want to bring it to your attention. He suggests that the Democrats in the Senate, and this would require 100% unanimity among the Democrats. So they would have to get Joe Manchin on board. They would have to get Heidi Heitkamp on board. They would have to get Claire McCaskill on board, which is something I'm skeptical of. But, you know, these are urgent times, as the saying goes. And in fact, these are the times that try men and women's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will now, no doubt, shrink from the service of their country. But tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Okay, Thomas Paine. Anyhow, what he's suggesting is that the Democrats should say to the Republicans, Chuck Schumer should say to Mitch McConnell, if you guys will not postpone this nomination until the next legislative session, January of 2019, which is a mere, 5 months away? If I'm doing my math right, something like that, 4 or 5 months away. If you will not postpone these hearings and this vote on this nominee until after the election, we are going to leave town. We will leave one senator in the Capitol who every single time the Republicans call for unanimous consent will deny it. The Republicans can still get done everything they want because they have, they got 50 votes, 51 votes now. John Kyle has been, John Kyle has been sworn in for John McCain's seat. The Republicans can do whatever they're going to do, but they're going to do it without our complicity, without our cooperation, without us going along. We are going to make a loud public statement. This is not normal. This is not right. This guy Kavanaugh, according to Nancy McLean's book, Democracy in Chains, which was written several years ago, she pointed out Brett Kavanaugh was handpicked by the Koch brothers or by their network as one of the guys who's going to do what the billionaire class wants. And we're not having it. So let's see where it goes. Margie in Houston, Texas. Hey, Margie, what's on your mind today?
Yes, hi, Tom. I've been listening to the proceedings, and I'm wondering, will Kavanaugh go through no matter what because the Republicans have the numbers, or are the Democrats just stalling for Mueller's investigation?
The number one thing that could prevent this, setting aside any Democrats, flipping, which is a possibility, but the number one thing is if his extreme views on abortion are made so clear that Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, the senators from Maine and Alaska, the Republican senators, can no longer pretend that his assurance that Roe v. Wade is settled law, which of course is obvious to everybody, is of consequence. I mean, to say when you're not on the Supreme Court, to say something is settled law, therefore can't rule against it. Well, of course, but once you're on the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court routinely overturns settled law. In fact, Roe v. Wade was overturning settled law. So, that's what it's going to take. Is it going to take Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins both to say no? Awesome. And if they, if they both say no, and Joe Manchin and Heidi Heitkamp and Claire McCaskill don't say yes, then you've got it. So there is, I get all the pundits on TV are going, oh, this is a done deal. I don't think it's a done deal. And if it is a done deal, I think that the Democrats should exact a punishment for it, essentially. I agree with Thomas Neuberger, who I believe used to write under the name Gaius Publius, that the Democrats should just, take a stand here, make an issue out of this. Thank you for the call. Rocco, listening to Progressive Voices in Rosendale, New York. Hey, Rocco, what's up?
How you doing? Well, I kind of noticed something when you were talking about a coup. There was a coup that was started in the 30s. The businessmen had failed a coup against FDR right after he put through his plan, Social Security and whatnot.
Yeah.
So this has been going on for quite some time, and then it got brought back to the fore when Reagan busted unions, and now we have this. Can't say it wasn't coming.
Yeah, there have been attempts. I mean, Smedley Butler called that thing out. There were a bunch of industrialists. It looks like Rockefeller and Mellon and a few others came to Smedley Butler, who was at that point in time sort of the General Patton, the John McCain of America. He was the most decorated war hero in American history. He was a Marine general. At that time, he was retired, but he still held that in very, very high esteem, made a minor living traveling around the country speaking to veterans groups, and was a celebrity. And they came to Smedley Butler and they said, we've got this group, and I'm forgetting the name of the group. It was like a veterans organization that had about 500,000 members that was extremely right-wing. And they said, we will march on Washington, D.C., we will take the White House, we will imprison the president and vice president, and we will install an acting president in their place if you will lead the troops. And Smedley Butler called them out, and Congress began to investigate this. Democrats in Congress were outraged, and FDR stopped the investigation because he did not want anybody to think that that was even possible. He was very concerned about it getting out. So that was an attempted coup that didn't work. And in the Reagan administration, you had I'm assuming you're talking about General what's his name saying, "I'm in charge here."
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was not actually in charge. I mean, I don't know of any time in history when there has actually been a coup, and we have one right now. This guy's bragging about it in the New York Times.
Yep.
So I think this is a big danger. This is a huge red flag. Rago, thanks for the call. Well said. Michael in Fairfax, Virginia. Hey, Michael, thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's up?
Hey, Tom. Man, this is like an amazing thing. We agree with each other. I listen to you almost every day, and I
and you're a conservative?
Agree with anything. I am, but I'm not crazy about it or anything. I don't want to yell at you or any of that kind of stuff. But no, we completely agree. Like, this is a huge thing. I was telling my wife last night. I said, I didn't like Obama at all, but man, it would have bothered me to my core to find out that there was somebody in his administration trying to sort of thwart his efforts to do, the things that I didn't particularly agree with. But duly elected president, man, it's a very bad path to go down.
Yes.
And this is that you recognize that.
Yeah, and this is not a partisan issue. I mean, this is the thing that horrified me yesterday, watching all these commentators on television going, "Oh yeah, great, the Republic is safe now." No.
It's actually more in peril than it has been.
Absolutely. Wait until Elizabeth Warren is president, and a bunch of people in her administration say, "Oh, we're not going to allow her to have socialized medicine."
Absolutely. And then what does that do for the vetting process of hiring people and all these things? It turns things so on its head.
Yes.
It's very dangerous.
This is a crime against our republic.
It really
is absolutely a crime against our republic.
One more thing I wanted to bring up with you. You were talking about the affirmative action and all these things. I have a unique situation. So my daughter's half black. My wife is black, and her cousin, who lives down in North Carolina, is half Asian and half white. So we're a mixed family, as it were. But do you know that when they take the SATs, that my daughter will automatically get 450 points more than her cousin will?
I did not know that, and I'm not sure I believe that.
Her cousin will get docked 100 and some points, I think 140 points, and my daughter will get awarded 310 points just for being black.
Yeah, I think that this is the rationale for this, Michael. Michael, I can't verify the numbers that you're stating, but I know that. I mean, this is the essence of some of the affirmative action stuff, and I confess I've become addicted to the New York Times mini crossword puzzles, and I've been in the afternoon, just solving the 5 or 6 of them a day just for fun.
The mailer writes those, actually.
Yeah. Okay. And one of the things that really has become clear to me is that there are so many cultural references in those things that if I was not part of, quote, mainstream culture, which is basically white culture in America, I wouldn't know the answers to. And on the other hand, if the questions had been questions that were something that was, if I lived in an inner city or if I grew up black, I would more likely know the answers to different questions than those. I mean, there is a cultural bias in our testing system. And so we have been attempting
why do they say
to resolve
that Asian kids are automatically going to do so much better?
I would say by and large because the discrimination against Asian kids.
Question on the SATs is probably more interesting.
The 1880s was the last time that you had the government aggressively discriminating against Asians. Now, I realize that Asians in many parts of the country are discriminated against, and it's a terrible thing. But not essentially ghettoized, not segregated the way that African Americans have been. And as a result of that, you've got tests that still bear what I think you could legitimately call substantial racial bias. And something should be done about that, and something appropriate should be done about that. So, Michael, I get it that you don't agree with that. You're making the argument basically, and thank you for the call. You're making the argument basically that Kavanaugh was making in this exchange that Cory Booker just publicized, which is everything should be race neutral. Well, once everybody is equal, fine. But everybody is not equal. They're not equal in educational opportunity. They're not equal in the schools that they're getting. They're not equal. It's just we're not all equal.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be back with more of your calls. Well, actually, we're going to check in with Talk Media News in about 4 minutes, so stick around. And welcome back. Let's see here. Sandy watching us on Free Speech TV in Newcastle, Wyoming. Hey, Sandy, what's on your mind?
Confirmation hearings.
I'm sorry, Sandy, start again.
I've been watching the confirmation hearings on Kavanaugh.
Uh-huh.
There is no precedent for what is happening.
That's correct.
What they are doing is trying to install a non-judicial precedent at the highest level.
I agree.
They've been, this is how the courts are manipulated, is through non-judicial precedents, and nobody seems to want to talk about it. I haven't heard anyone.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I mean, this is the second breaking of precedent that Mitch McConnell has overseen now, and Chuck Grassley is conspiring with him in this. The first was denying Merrick Garland even meetings and hearings. And the second now is denying 93%, denying to give to the Democrats 93% of the record of Brett Kavanaugh's career as a judge and as a lawyer.
Also, did you notice that Grassley calls you the Democrat Party?
I heard that this morning. My head exploded. I was like, oh my God. Grassley is doing that on, from the podium. I was amazed that one of the Democrats didn't call him out and say, Senator, there is no such thing as a Democrat Party. It does not exist. It was Joe McCarthy's slur. He encouraged Republicans to use it and always emphasized the word rat. But when Thomas Jefferson named this party, he called it the Democratic Republican Party. And in the 1820s, when they dropped the word Republican, they renamed it the Democratic Party. And it has been the Democratic Party ever since roughly 1800.
Well, there needs to be more focus on the non-judicial precedents, because that's how all of the courts are being manipulated.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yep, I absolutely agree. Well said. Thank you very much, Sandy, for the call. Jonathan in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jonathan.
Hi, Tom. Tom, I know who wrote the letter.
Who is that?
John Miller.
Who's John Miller?
Well, we don't know John Miller.
No.
Well, I know it's John Miller because John Miller is Donald Trump's alter ego. when he used to pretend.
Oh, so you think Trump wrote the letter or had somebody write the letter and leaked it so that he could do this whole kabuki theater to distract us from Kavanaugh melting down?
Well, look, I'm half joking, right? But when you think about the resistance, what you think about someone who's fighting resistance is someone who's selfless and self-effacing. This whole letter was highly egotistical, and it was very concerned. The person who's writing the letter was mostly concerned with how they were being perceived.
Right.
And also, it's bizarre to think that, the resistance gives a wink and a nod to the wealthy and the powerful with tax breaks and deregulation, and that's like
right. It's a joke.
It just sounds so bizarre. So I'm going with John Miller.
That's very interesting. I can't rebut that. If Donald Trump used, the Reichstag fire, there's a considerable amount of evidence that the Nazis actually helped Maris van der Lubbe set the German Parliament building on fire in 1933. And if Trump or people close to Trump participated in writing this letter to be a Reichstag fire, essentially, to be an inciting incident that Trump could use to begin a massive purge of government and maybe even to declare martial law.
Well, if you're really trying to protect people, why would you want to uncover your identity?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Jonathan, thank you for the call. Boy, food for thought. We're going to check in with Bob Ney in just a second. Stick around. Well, it's that time of year again. The Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really find out what's going on in the world today. On the line with us, first of all, this report brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com and Loving What You Do, Ellen Ratner's new book. On the line with us is the author of Sideswiped, former congressman from Ohio, Bob Ney. Bob, welcome back.
Hi, Tom. Thank you.
So what's at the top of your hit parade of the news of the day?
Well, I'll get to the op-ed in a second, but I did want to mention North Korea because we hear a lot of controversy back and forth of what's going on. And the North Korean president, Kim Jong-un, has again reaffirmed about the denuclearization. Highest levels, North and South, are meeting. So I think that in itself continues on. But I don't know if you saw the statement. It kind of makes me chuckle because there was a statement. And this is Chung Eui-yong, a special envoy from South Korea, who told reporters that Kim Jong-un stressed, quote, he's never talked negative about President Trump to his staff or anyone else. He wanted to make that clear.
Oh, really? What about on Twitter when he called him a dotard?
Well, yeah. So, but I just thought it was fascinating that all of a sudden they're like, hey, by the way, everybody else in the world saying something, we aren't. So I just thought that was quite fascinating message, I think, probably to President Trump.
Trump and dictators seem to get along really well.
Something's working.
Yeah. On this issue. On this letter to the editor of the New York Times, I just had a caller who suggested that Trump or somebody close to Trump may have actually placed this letter as an excuse to bring about a purge of, quote, disloyal elements within the White House. A purge that might be like the Night of the Long Knives. I mean, only instead of killing people, imprisoning people. But the purge is the next step in a takeover of a government. That seems a little extreme, a little paranoid for me. But I am of the opinion that this person has declared a coup. And I was horrified yesterday to see all these commentators on the television networks going, oh, well, thank God the Republic is safe. They're restraining his worst impulses. Can you imagine if they hadn't been there, how bad things would be? And I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? What would those same people have said if during the Obama administration somebody had come out and said, we're staging a coup, we're the loyal resistance inside the Obama administration, and we're going to prevent him from doing that socialized medicine Obamacare thing? Or if Elizabeth Warren gets elected and they come out and say, we're taking over the executive branch, we're preventing President Warren from doing socialized medicine, we would be aghast. I mean, this is a crime.
Oh, yes. I mean, but look, I'm not you know me, I am not a conspiracy theorist, but I also have been in the government long enough to know there are some conspiracies. We can go back in history, the King David Hotel bombing, okay? I mean, we can just go back where people did things for different motives to achieve what they wanted for support.
Yeah, that was where Menachem Begin blew up the hotel to kick off basically the war that produced Israel.
Right. Right, and of course it was that they were disguised as Arabs and had an Arab make a phone call. It was going to be bombed, and so throughout history things have happened.
Well, and this is what the Nazis did with the Reichstag in 1933. They burned down their own parliament building in order to get Hitler in as chancellor.
Correct, and it's interesting about the caller because there's something that bothered me with this entire thing all morning long since 4:30 when I got up to compile the news. And here's what bothered me. First of all, I read it over. There's a couple of things. It looks to me, too, like somebody that is really, really loves free trade was behind part of this. It looks like it because it's mentioned. Also, there is absolutely no way the vice president wrote this. They threw in a term he uses.
Lodestar, yeah.
Right, in order to make it look like it. He wrote it. He's not that dumb to put that in there.
Right.
Now, somebody at a level below him could have. Number two, I don't think this was the janitor trying to call himself the high-level White House person. Somebody at a higher level did do this. Here's what bugs me about this, and I've got to yield towards the caller when it comes to this particular maybe conspiracy. Something bothers me. If you read this letter, the person is like trying to save America. The person's all willing to do this. And, yeah, it's timing. I think he might have talked to Bob Woodward, but it's not, the timing of it was not just to promote a book. I don't believe that. Here's the problem. If I'm in the White House and I'm this person, and I really, really believe in my heart, which you read in that letter, that the president's okay in some things, but we got to stop him. This is my job. I'm going to save America. Why on earth would I not keep on the down low in the White House and achieve my objective, which is what I want to do? Why would I dare do an op-ed? I have to lean towards the caller. I am thinking this was done, and now they're saying call the New York Times. I think this was done with the knowledge of the White House. Now, who, president or whatever, I don't know. I've got to yield to that because since this morning it's bugged me. If this guy is that, or gal is that dedicated to saving this country, why would you blow your cover when you can continue to manipulate the White House to, quote, save the country?
Wow. And you were a serving member of Congress for years and years. I mean, it's not like, you're part of the lunatic fringe. Go ahead, Bob.
And I don't mind sharing for a real quick second. Pages were huffing chemicals at one point in time. Speaker Hastert's office wanted to keep it quiet. I set up with my press secretary a very elaborate way for me to be asked questions and my press secretary to be asked questions, and we initiated that all to be leaked.
Wow. So you created a conspiracy to create a leak.
Yes, sir.
Amazing. Bob Ney, former congressman from Ohio, author of Sideswiped, with our report from Talk Media News. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
It is always so informative talking with you. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com. Well, it's that time of year again. The Free Speech TV fund drive, pledge drive, membership drive. I'm not sure the official name of it, but I think it's the fall pledge drive. And fall is here. Boy, is it here. And the bills are coming due at Free Speech TV. They have to pay for satellite fees. They have to pay for transmission, to get this show from us to them and to get the show from them to you. They have to pay for their staff. It's a small staff. The entire television network runs on a budget that's smaller than 1 hour, the budget of 1 hour of the programming on, for example, MSNBC. They are truly doing amazing things with very little money. And they're doing it as a nonprofit that is owned by all of us, essentially. There literally is no owner. It's you. You are Free Speech TV. And so we have to come to you and say, or Free Speech TV has to come to you and say, please help. And I'm doing that on their behalf. And also, obviously, if Free Speech TV goes away, my show is not on your TV set anymore. So I have a very big concern about this too. We need to keep this network on the air. And the only way we can do that is if you call now, 877-378-8669. That is the telephone number, isn't it, Nate? Yeah, okay. 877-378-8669. I've done so many of these for years, even though it's not written down on my stuff. I can do it from memory. And let them know that you'd like to support Free Speech TV. You can make a gift of any amount. You can make a gift on a recurring basis or not. You can say, ding my credit card every month for $5 or $10 or whatever, or you can simply say, here's my $12.50 contribution. It's what I can afford. Or here's my $12,000 contribution. Whatever you can afford that you think reflects the value of the programming that you're getting from Free Speech TV. I think I can say with a fairly high level of certainty that the quality of programming on this network is not matched anywhere else. You don't find this quality of programming on NPR. You don't find it on public television. You don't find it on your local cable channel and your local cable shows. You're certainly not going to find it in the corporate media in the United States. It's here on Free Speech TV. And it's here because for, I think it's 17 or 18 years now, maybe a little longer, people like you have called in during the pledge drives and said, yes, please stay alive. Keep going. We want more. And so as we begin this election season, and I realize it's a tough one, there's a lot of candidates out there, a lot of great candidates who are asking for your support. And there's a lot of things you can do with them. You can phone bank, you can go door to door, you can call your friends, you can essentially lobby on their behalf. But with Free Speech TV, basically the only way you can help, well, obviously you can tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV, but the main way that you can help is by calling now, 877-378-8669, and making a contribution. With a $30 gift, you get the Vote 11-6-18, November 6th of this year bumper sticker, and a Vote Free Speech TV button. With the $72 gift, you get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. This is a book this is a comic book, essentially. It's illustrated but it's based on, as I recall, either 8 or 10 chapters, and each one is based on a fairly long op-ed that I wrote. This is as solid as any book you'll ever have, and yet it's perfect to, leave in the bathroom where people can pick it up, or just share with your kids, or put it on their coffee table. It's a great book. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray Made in the USA T-shirt. Unlike the Trump paraphernalia, it's actually made in the U.S. and the bumper sticker. With a $120 gift can also be $10 a month. With a $240 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV hoodie kit. And that's the Vote Free Speech TV logo gray Made in the USA zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the aluminum button, 2 1/4-inch Vote Free Speech TV, and the Vote 11-618 bumper sticker. With a $360 gift, which can be $30 a month for a year, you get the Vote for Our Future pack, which is the gray T-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweater, the hoodie, the 2 1/4-inch diameter aluminum button, and the Vote 11-618 bumper sticker. With a $480 gift, that would be $40 a month if you want to do that for the year. You get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. You get the Vote Free Speech TV logo T-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the Vote Free Speech TV button, and the Vote Free Speech TV November 6, 2018 bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and I'll take you to lunch. We just had 3 weeks ago or so, we had a group of people come here from all over the country. It was just marvelous. And they hung out in our studio for the last hour of the show, and then we walked to a nearby restaurant and had a really nice meal. Got to know some great people. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I don't know what I was thinking.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Yeah, welcome back to the third hour of our program, and I want to get into, just share with you a little interaction that Kamala Harris and Judge Brett Kavanaugh had yesterday. This has to do with the Mueller investigation. Whoa. Going back to the, what was that? Oh, okay. Going back to the theory that the reason why Donald Trump added Brett Kavanaugh to the list of people the Federalist Society had given him, which in and of itself is obscene, right? That we're outsourcing to nonprofits that are funded by billionaires and corporations the job of picking a Supreme Court justice. But the Federalist Society came up with a list, and then Donald Trump added Brett Kavanaugh to that list. After Brett Kavanaugh's friends got into the media that Brett Kavanaugh thought that a president can't be questioned even, much less indicted for a crime. Okay. So the question then is there essentially a conspiracy here between people in the Trump organization or people close to or affiliated with the Trump organization? And by organization, I don't mean just, the Trump companies, but also the administration. In fact, I should probably say administration. Is there a conspiracy between the administration and Brett Kavanaugh to explicitly and specifically get him on the court so that he can lobby against any effort by a grand jury or by Robert Mueller to submit a subpoena to Donald Trump for testimony, for papers, or for anything else that might lead to his impeachment or his indictment, and that would also block an indictment? So that's the question. Is there a conspiracy here? Before the hearing, before the appointment, was Brett Kavanaugh talking to these people, particularly to the people affiliated with the law firm that represents Donald Trump and Steve Bannon. Well, I don't know if they represent Steve Bannon. That's the guy who's vetting the paperwork for the Senate committee right now. He represents Steve Bannon. But the law firm that represented Donald Trump, is that law firm participating in a conspiracy with Kavanaugh? I mean, that's if she doesn't come right out and say it, but this is what's implicit in this line of questioning coming from Senator Kamala Harris yesterday. Just listen to this and check this out. It's about 2 minutes.
Have you ever discussed Special Counsel Mueller or his investigation with anyone?
Well, it's in the news every day.
Have you discussed it with anyone?
George, what's on your mind today?
Oh, thanks for taking my call, Tom. With respect, and I have the highest respect for you and your staff and all you do, I'd like to disagree somewhat with your characterization of what's happening in the White House and the op-ed as a coup d'etat.
Okay.
My high school French is pretty rusty, but as I recall, the French term refers to the lopping off of heads. And so far, there hasn't been any violence or armed men invading the White House or the president or the vice president being forcibly removed from office.
I don't think there's been a guillotine used in a coup since the French Revolution. So the use of the term has evolved over the years.
I understand,
George.
But what I'm getting at is I think it's more correct to characterize what's happening as insubordination, and it's not risen to the level of what I would consider a coup. We're stuck with a governmental system that was invented in the 1700s, and it's flawed. And we don't have a real self-correcting mechanism for a president who came to office the way Trump did, and for an individual who is as flawed and unbalanced as Trump is. And
we
so
actually do. It's the 25th Amendment.
Out with ways to try and deal with this, but I wouldn't call it a coup.
We actually do have a mechanism for that. It's the 25th Amendment. And if whoever wrote this op-ed had any courage at all, they would be, A, public, and B, calling on members of the cabinet and the vice president to initiate proceedings under the 25th Amendment.
Well, I can't really disagree with that point. But what I'm saying is that the 25th, well, in particular about the 25th Amendment, if my memory of its text is correct, that even if the cabinet meets and certifies that the president is not fit for office, all the president has to do is address a letter, I believe, to the Secretary of State and to the President pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House or something similar.
Asserting his
I'm
fitness.
fine and I'm back in business, and that's all he has to do to get back in the saddle.
Well, there are these series of 21-day loops, but ultimately it comes down to a vote. I believe. I need to go back and reread the 25th Amendment, but I want to get back to the original point that you're making here, George, and my take on this is that we have a group inside the White House who are basically suborning, or who are, no, that's the wrong word, who are disrupting or blocking the efforts of the president to accomplish what he wants. And if that had been happening to Barack Obama, we would be flipped out.
But Barack Obama was legitimately and substantially, by solid margins, elected twice to the office. You can't say that about Trump.
I don't disagree, broadly speaking, but I don't think that's an excuse. And let me take this to the second level, which is where, I go from being upset to being very, very concerned. And that is the Reichstag fire, theory, which is that whether this was intentional, whether this letter was published by partisans on Trump's side, maybe even without Trump's knowledge, to try to bring things to a head, or whether this was unintentional, the consequence of it may well be that a massive purge begins to take place in the executive branch, and the fallout from that may be a wildly, newly empowered, extremely radical right-wing administration that takes no prisoners at all, that sees enemies everywhere, including in Congress and including in the courts, and we get back to the Abe Lincoln with Dred Scott or Andrew Jackson with the Trail of Tears scenario, where they just start saying, you know, I don't care what the courts say, I'm not going to follow the law. I don't care what the legislature said, I'm not going to follow the law. And, well, in the case of Abe Lincoln, of course, he had the Civil War, but he suspended habeas corpus. You know, I wouldn't put any of that past Trump. He has so little knowledge of the history of this country and the founding principles and ideals, and he has no principles of his own other than me, mine. And I'm concerned that this is handing him a blowtorch, basically, to go after people in his own administration.
Well, let us hope that something that, with the import of that, is so terrible that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, let us hope.
One aside about who actually wrote this, Chris Matthews on his MSNBC show, Hard Talk, said, based on his experience in the Capitol, he deduced that it was Dan Coats, the National Intelligence Director. And I would think that makes sense in terms of a connection with Pence, because they're both from Indiana. This way, Pence's fingerprints are off it, but a fellow Indianan, and who knows, there may be a Hoosier Mafia at work here.
Yeah.
They may be behind it.
Boy, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense, because my first instinct was to think, okay, this is Mike Pence. And, you know, but obviously he's going to have to get somebody to do it as his agent. He's going to have a front man. And Dan Coats makes a lot of sense, the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence. George, thanks for the call. You know, I think our disagreements are fairly minor on this. You may object to my use of the word coup, but, you know, I don't know a better word. Well, you think it's insubordination. Insubordination typically is known, but we're splitting hairs here around the semantics of it all. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Just a bit past 15 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls and the news of the day in just a moment. Mr. Pierce writing over at Esquire. Fascinating piece. Stick around. Welcome back. Tammy, watching YouTube in Kennesaw. Is that Kennesaw, Georgia?
Yes.
I have been there. I used to live right down the road from Kennesaw. What's up, Tammy?
Yes, I know. Well, one thing I wanted to say is that for the first time since 1972, we have 2 Democrats on the ticket in Kennesaw.
Cool.
And I met one of them. Yes, I'm very excited about that. And also, they also warned me that Georgia voters need to make sure that their voters' registration is intact, because Kemp, one of the guys, the Republican guy running for governor here,
yep, Brian Kemp,
was taking people off the registry.
Oh, he purged 400,000 Georgians off the voter rolls over the last 2 years in anticipation of his run for governor, because he was the Secretary of State, or is the Secretary of State. So, in fact, the New York Times wrote a brilliant op-ed. Yeah, the New York Times had a brilliant op-ed titled "Brian Kemp, Enemy of Democracy," which, if people don't know about, they should look up, and any Georgian should be looking at that. Tammy, quick question: are you still required by law in Kennesaw, Georgia, to own a gun?
It is a law, but it's a law that they cannot
enforce. Yeah.
Enforce, yes. So it's kind of a lame duck law, but
yeah,
you know, people all over here have signs on their front doors and in their windows say, "There's nothing in my house worth dying for," and they have their guns, you know, whatever.
Right.
But I had a quick question for you.
Okay.
What would happen if the Democrats just didn't show up to the rest of the Brett Kavanaugh hearing?
There would be no hard questions asked. There would be no statements made that might cause Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski or others, you know, if there are any Republicans with integrity left in the Senate. I guess the two that are trying to position themselves in that category are Jeff Flake and Bob Corker. And if Flake and Corker actually had any integrity, they would start caucusing with the Democrats today. But, you know, hopefully, the hope that the Democrats have is that, A, they can expose to the American people what a charade this is, and B, by playing the role of the loyal opposition, and B, uncover enough of the truth about Brett Kavanaugh that he'll become sufficiently radioactive that he won't get elected, that he won't get his nomination will not be ratified by the Senate.
Yeah, I don't know. What about, could they dump all the papers that they do have and say, calling all lawyers?
They're doing that right now.
Look at this.
That's what Cory Booker proclaimed this morning when he said, we're just going to, even if you throw me out of the Senate, I'm going to break the rules and disclose these documents. The senator from Hawaii, what is her last name? Mazzeo, I think, Hirone Mazzeo. In any case, she just published on Twitter, I just retweeted it, in fact, documents about how Brett Kavanaugh was saying that basically that there should be nothing for native-born Hawaiians, that's racism to give native-born Hawaiians any kind of preference in Hawaii. Yeah, it's pretty bizarre stuff. Tammy, thank you for the call, and thanks for watching us in Kennesaw. It's great to hear from you. Brings back pleasant memories. It's 20 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more right after this. It's a once-in-a-lifetime luxury Alaskan cruise on the Regent 7th Sea Mariner, July 24th, 2019. For more information, Keen Luxury Travel, 800-856-1155. And did I mention, we'll be getting active on board with special events with yours truly me as we visit Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, Sitka, Hubbard Glacier, and Anchorage. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program, helping you win the water cooler wars. Bill in Richmond, Virginia. Hey, Bill, what's up?
I'll be fine, Tom. The thing I see your screen up is this. As I watch this whole procedure going on, is that I'm watching something that's happened the last 5 or 6 years, this thing about breaking precedents, about doing something different. I know there's been complaint about the Supreme Court being a simple majority. But that came about, let's talk to Harry Reid. And let's just go all the way through. Everything I'm seeing happen, what goes around comes around. And how long does this big circle keep going on?
I think that an economic crash is coming, and it's going to reboot the entire American political system.
So it would take something like the 1930s to make things.
If you look at the history of the United States, every single time there's been a major reboot, and even minor reboots, there was the great crash of 1897 that led directly to Teddy Roosevelt and the progressives and Taft, the Republican progressives. The great crash of 1856 led to the Civil War. The great crash of 1770 led to the American Revolution. The great crash of 1929 led to the New Deal. Every time that we've had a major reboot in this country, it's either been the result of a massive effort, a long, multi-generational effort, women's suffrage, the end of slavery, those kinds of things, or a massive economic crash. And typically the two have come together. And the crash has provided the basis for activism that brings about the social change. So that's my opinion. And I wrote an entire book about this, Bill, called The Crash of 2016. Obviously, the economy didn't crash.
Well, then the same thing happened in Germany, did it? Isn't that the same way Hitler got in power?
Yeah, it was the Great Depression that brought Hitler to power in large part. It was also the Treaty of Versailles just wiped out Germany. And in fact, what's the guy's name who was the financial advisor? John Maynard Keynes to FDR. John Maynard Keynes, when the Treaty of Versailles was signed, wrote an op-ed, I believe it was in the New York Times, in which he said that if this treaty is signed, it will guarantee World War II. Now, this was in like 1920. And the reason why he said that was because the Treaty of Versailles basically said that Germany had to pay back France, and it had to pay back all the countries that Germany had invaded in World War I, had to pay them full reparations and restore their countries. And when Hitler came into power, Germany was so crushed by this. Actually, it wasn't even Hitler, it was Bismarck before that. Germany was so crushed by this that in order to pay off these bills, because the bills were denominated in Deutschmarks, they said, okay, Germany, you owe us. You owe France 1 trillion Deutschmarks. You owe Poland, 500 billion Deutschmarks or whatever. So what they did is they inflated their currency to the point that 1 trillion Deutschmarks was enough to buy a loaf of bread. But that then set the stage, that absolute devastation of the German economy, which came about because of the Treaty of Versailles and was compounded by the Great Depression, which was affecting Europe just like it was us in the 1930s. That set the stage for 1933 and Hitler. And all he needed was an inciting incident. All he needed was some big, flashy thing to happen that would cause Germans to think that the Republic was under attack, and they would rally around him. And when the Nazis helped the Reichstag, the Reichstag building, the German Parliament building, there was an office building, sort of like the, right now you've got the executive office building that's down the street from the White House, but there's an underground tunnel that connects them. There was this underground tunnel, and the Nazis took, Marius van der Lubbe was this 23-year-old Dutch guy who was mentally retarded and perhaps mentally ill. And they smuggled him down through that tunnel into the Reichstag building and carried the gasoline or kerosene or whatever they used and poured it on the tapestries. At that time, the Reichstag building had these huge, ancient, 16th, 17th, 18th century tapestries lining the walls of the main corridors. And they poured this gasoline on these things and lit it on fire. And as soon as the news came that the Reichstag was on fire, Hitler was having lunch with von Papen at the time. And he rushed over to the Reichstag building, contacted the news media. The radio reporters and the newspaper reporters with their cameras met Hitler there, and Hitler on a microphone, on a live microphone for all of German radio, said, "This fire is a sign from God, von Gott." And
no, I understand what you're saying because I'm a history major. In fact,
no, but my concern is that we might, but this coup that's happening in the White House might be Donald Trump's Reichstag fire.
Well, the one difference, though, this is the one thing, and any historian would probably say this, particularly this country the size it is now, with 300 and some odd million people. You can't go back in history and find a time that much of a population, and this is the problem we have, the good bad of it. There is no homogenous United States. So I just cannot believe that you'd have to have so many things fall into place. And really, I would prefer not to have a major economic crash to sit through and make a course correction.
Yeah, I don't think that you need that many things, Bill. And I'll give you an example from our own recent history. In the summer of 2001, if I had gone on the radio and said, I predict within 1 year we are going to invade a country that has done absolutely nothing to hurt or harm us and that represents no threat to us whatsoever, and we're going to invade that country, and we're going to spend over $1 trillion, and we're going to be there for the next 20 years. You would have said, Tom, you're crazy. And then 9/11 happened, and George Bush used that, the same way Hitler used the Reichstag fire, as a national alarm bell and said, because of 9/11, we have to invade both Afghanistan and Iraq, even though Iraq had absolutely nothing to do with it, and Bush knew it. And so, no, I don't think it's that hard, frankly, to fool the American people into something really insane, because it was been done by George W. Bush.
Listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And God forbid it's being done right now by Donald Trump or by partisans or billionaires acting on his behalf. We'll be back. Well, it's that time of year again. The Free Speech TV fund drive, pledge drive, membership drive. I'm not sure the official name of it, but I think it's the fall pledge drive. And fall is here. Boy, is it here. And the bills are coming due at Free Speech TV. They have to pay for satellite fees. They have to pay for transmission, to get this show from us to them and to get the show from them to you. They have to pay for their staff. It's a small staff. The entire television network runs on a budget that's smaller than 1 hour, the budget of 1 hour of the programming on, for example, MSNBC. I mean, they are truly doing amazing things with very little money. And they're doing it as a nonprofit that is owned by all of us, essentially. You know, there literally is no owner. It's you. You are Free Speech TV. And so we have to come to you and say, or Free Speech TV has to come to you and say, please help. And I'm doing that on their behalf. And also, you know, obviously, if Free Speech TV goes away, my show is not on your TV set anymore. So I have a very big concern about this too. We need to keep this network on the air. And the only way we can do that is if you call now, 877-378-8669. That is the telephone number, isn't it, Nate? Yeah, okay, 877-378-8669. I've done so many of these for years, even though it's not written down on my stuff. I can do it from memory. And let them know that you'd like to support Free Speech TV. You can make a gift of any amount. You can make a gift on a recurring basis or not. You can say, ding my credit card every month for $5 or $10 or whatever, or you can simply say, here's my $12.50 contribution. It's what I can afford. Or here's my $12,000 contribution. Whatever you can afford that you think reflects the value of the programming that you're getting from Free Speech TV. I think I can say with a fairly high level of certainty that the quality of programming on this network is not matched anywhere else. You don't find this quality of programming on NPR. You don't find it on public television. You don't find it on your local cable channel and your local cable shows. You're certainly not going to find it in the corporate media in the United States. It's here on Free Speech TV. And it's here because for, I think it's 17 or 18 years now, maybe a little longer, people like you have called in during the pledge drives and said, yes, please stay alive, keep going, we want more. And so as we begin this election season, and I realize it's a tough one, there's a lot of candidates out there, a lot of great candidates who are asking for your support, and there's a lot of things you can do with them. You can phone bank, you can go door to door, you can call your friends, you can essentially lobby on their behalf. But with Free Speech TV, basically the only way you can help, well, obviously you can tell everybody you know about Free Speech TV, but the main way that you can help is by calling now, 877-378-8669, and making a contribution. With a $30 gift, you get the Vote 11-6-18, November 6th of this year bumper sticker, and a Vote Free Speech TV button.
Have you ever discussed
with the
Special
$72
Counsel
gift,
Mueller or his investigation
you
with
get
anyone?
my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. This is a book that
it's
this is
in the news every
comic
day.
book, essentially.
Have you
it's
discussed it
illustrated,
with anyone?
but it's based on, as I recall,
with
either
other
8 or 10
judges, I know.
chapters, and each one is
Have
based
you
on a
discussed
fairly
Mueller
long
or his
op-ed that I wrote.
investigation with anyone at Kasowitz Benz Flores, the law firm founded by Mark?
Leave in the bathroom where people can pick it up, or just share with your kids, or put it on the coffee table. It's a great book. That's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV dark gray Made in the USA T-shirt. Unlike the Trump paraphernalia, it's actually made in the U.S. and the bumper sticker. With a $120 gift can also be $10 a month. With a $240 gift, you get the Vote Free Speech TV hoodie kit. And that's the Vote Free Speech TV logo gray Made in the USA zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the aluminum button, 2 1/4 inch Vote Free Speech TV, and the Vote 11-6-18 bumper sticker. With a $360 gift, which can be $30 a month for a year, you get the Vote for Our Future pack, which is the gray T-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweater, the hoodie, the 2 1/4 inch diameter aluminum button, and the Vote 11-6-18 bumper sticker. With a $480 gift, that would be $40 a month if you want to do that for the year. You get my book, We the People, A Call to Take Back America. You get the Vote Free Speech TV logo T-shirt, the zip-up hooded sweatshirt, the Vote Free Speech TV button, and the Vote Free Speech TV November 6, 2018 bumper sticker. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland, and I'll take you to lunch. We just had 3 weeks ago or so, we had a group of people come here from all over the country. It was just marvelous. And they hung out in our studio for the last hour of the show, and then we walked to a nearby restaurant and had a really nice meal. Got to know some great people. So please call now, 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. I've got just this amazing thing from the New York Times. It's remarkable. The headline, why was Kavanaugh obsessed with Vince Foster? Remember Vince Foster? Back in 1993, Vince Foster was a guy who worked in the White House. He was suffering from severe clinical depression, which was well documented by his doctors. And he went out and shot himself in the head, committed suicide. They found his body, and, that was the end of that. Until the Alex Joneses of the right got a hold of it and said, oh, no, he was murdered by Hillary Clinton. We all know it. And somebody went to Ken Starr, who had investigated this in 1997. Now, this is 5 years later, right? 4 years later. In 1997, Ken Starr investigated the death of Vince Foster and concluded that it was a suicide. And somebody went to Ken Starr and said, why don't we get hair follicle samples from Vince Foster's daughter so we can find out what was really going on? Let's open a full-fledged investigation. We have reliable sources on this. Reading from the article. But shortly after the Senate report, this is a Senate report saying, Ken Starr killed himself. He was suffering from depression. Shortly after the Senate report was released, Mr. Kavanaugh convinced Mr. Starr to reopen what he called a full-fledged investigation of this Foster matter, telling his colleagues as justification that, quote, this is Brett Kavanaugh speaking, we have received allegations that Mr. Foster's death related to President and Mrs. Clinton's involvement, end quote, in Whitewater and other scandals. And who were those unnamed, presumably reliable sources that Brett Kavanaugh was quoting? Yeah, it was the Jerome Corsi's of the world. It was the right-wing crazies. This guy has been, yesterday I said, and somebody called me up and said, how dare you say that Sonia Sotomayor was out as a Democrat? I said, Brett Kavanaugh has been a right-wing hitman. He's been a Republican operative for years. He worked in the Bush White House. He helped coordinate the lawsuit in 2000, Bush v. Gore, where George Bush claimed before the Supreme Court that he would suffer irreparable harm if the vote in Florida was recounted. And in fact, we learned later he would have. He would have lost the White House because Al Gore actually won in Florida. Brett Kavanaugh was in on that. He was part of that. This guy's been a Republican hitman forever. Anyhow, let's pick up your calls. Paul in Woodinville. Hey, Paul, what's up?
Well, Tom, you were talking about a conspiracy with regard to this Brett Kavanaugh nomination. I think there's a conspiracy that goes back to the death of Antonin Scalia. I'm not talking about his death, but the stonewalling of Merrick Garland.
Yeah.
If you look at this, what sense does that make? And look at the timing, February 2016. At that point, Mitch McConnell, everyone pretty well knew that Donald Trump was going to be the nominee for the Republican Party. So if you're looking at Merrick Garland as the nominee for the Supreme Court, unless you knew something, and I think Mitch McConnell and many in the Republican Party did know that there was collusion and interference by Russia, why wouldn't you just at least give Merrick Garland a hearing and say, I'm sorry, there's too many reasons. And the reason they didn't say that is because there was no reason. They didn't give him a hearing because they had no good reason to say no.
This is why Barack Obama picked Merrick Garland, is because he went to Orrin Hatch, who is on the Senate committee here, and we've been hearing from him for a couple of days. He went to Orrin Hatch and said, give me the name of a judge who is acceptable to the Republicans, non-controversial. He wanted to have.
So why would you at that time, if you're Mitch McConnell, say we're going to wait for the election, especially if you thought Hillary Clinton was presumed to win, or worse yet, for their point of view, Bernie Sanders, who would nominate somebody much more liberal.
Right. So you're thinking that Mitch McConnell knew that the fix was in.
Yes,
that,
he knew he had even odds to win the White House, and so he was playing. Yeah, he was playing the dice. He was playing the odds, and he knew there was even odds because he knew the fix was in.
The fix being what? Voter suppression?
They've been playing this. This is a conspiracy, and let me add something else to this. The Donald Trump, and this is a witch hunt. There's this, there's kind of a phenomenon in social psychology that you tend to believe that other people are motivated the same way you are.
Sure.
So, of course, the Republicans think this is a witch hunt because that's the way they employ a special counsel, to do a witch hunt. But Robert Mueller, if there was nothing there by now, he'd say, I'm sorry, folks, there's nothing there. But he's come up with not only guilty pleas, but indictments that have led to convictions. There's something there. There's a there, as they like to say in Washington, D.C. And the there is, I think, there's a huge conspiracy here. And that for collusion and
so the big question, Paul, then is: did Mitch McConnell know that the fix was in, and the extent to which the fix was in? Keep in mind, in Wisconsin, I believe it was over 200,000 or 150,000 people were purged from the voting rolls just before the election. In Ohio, it was over 200,000. In Michigan, it was in the neighborhood of 200,000. In Pennsylvania, it was a couple 100,000. Did Mitch McConnell, and was that the fix that Mitch McConnell knew about? Or did it have to do with electronic voting machines? Or did it have to do with something else? I mean, what exactly was the fix that was in that McConnell knew about? Or was it Russian collusion?
That's what I think Robert Mueller will be able to tell us. But he knew his back was against the wall. If you were expecting to lose the election,
why would you burn that much political capital?
Take a bird in hand. Merrick Garden was a bird in hand. You don't wait to see who Hillary Clinton or possibly Bernie Sanders would nominate.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. I agree. Thank you for the call. And the question is, why would he burn through that much political capital? Why would Mitch McConnell get a huge black eye for doing something that had never been done when Hillary Clinton would come along as president and nominate somebody even more progressive than Merrick Garland? Because Merrick Garland was not a progressive. He was not even a Democrat. He was a Republican. So, anyhow, good questions all. Daryl in Denville, New Jersey. Hey, Daryl, what's up?
Hey, how are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
A couple of things. The first is, I think it was D&I Coates that wrote that op-ed.
Yeah, it appears to be Chris Matthews' theory too.
Yeah, I think he was pissed when he's blindsided about this with this invite to Russia to visit, or to Putin to visit the White House, and also the fact that he was never debriefed about what Trump told Putin during that 2-hour meeting. I think that pissed him off. And also, I think that
that makes a lot of sense.
And maybe he and maybe Mattis and probably are the two that want to maybe preserve what appears to be a good reputation without repudiating Trump's agenda. So they basically saying Trump's agenda is good, but Trump is not. And so this is a way for them to sort of like split the baby into two, I guess.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'm not sure about this.
Yep, we just lost our caller. Bill in Negotia, Indiana. No.
No, I'm Bill from Sunrise Beach, but I'm in Goshen, Indiana, picking up a trailer.
Oh, in Goshen. Okay, cool. What's up?
Yeah. So I think what we're in also is what Star Trek would call a political Kobayashi Maru.
Okay.
We as outsiders are in a no-win scenario.
I don't know what that means. Tell me.
The Kobayashi Maru was a no-win scenario test that you will fail, but it's a test of character. There's no way out. No matter what you do, the test is designed to make you fail.
Okay.
So there's no win. And that's what I feel we are in when you look at Trump-Pence.
Well, in that case, this morning, when Cory Booker stood up and said, you can kick me out of the Senate if you want, I'm going to break the rules and release these documents, he passed the character test.
in that sense. But what does it matter who's in charge ultimately? We got what's going on now. Trump's in charge. He's being called out, and Melania says, "Watch out, there's consequences."
Right.
If Kavanaugh gets confirmed before the election, there's the no-win scenario. Then Trump, if Pence takes Trump's case, he can do whatever Trump was going to do and say, "I pardon myself." Kavanaugh goes along with that, or goes along with Trump.
Yeah. No, if Pence becomes president, he's going to pull a Jerry Ford. I absolutely predict that. He's going to pardon Donald Trump. Excellent point and excellent questions, Bill. The whole thing. Thank you very much for the call, and thanks for listening on our app out there, the Thom Hartmann app. It is 16 minutes before the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls and the news of the day. This thing with Kavanaugh that just came out in the New York Times today, this is bizarre. That he sent investigators in search of follicle specimens from Vince Foster's teenage daughter? Really? We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
There's something very, very weird about Brett Kavanaugh. Just very, very weird. Stick around. And welcome back. John in Sebring, Florida. Hey, John, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's up?
You're talking about having only one senator show up and then object to anything the other side wanted to do.
Right, for the record, yeah.
My question is, if no senators from our side showed up, wouldn't that be like a quorum call thing, that there has to be a certain number from each side?
Yeah, but a quorum for the U.S. Senate is 51 members, and they have 51 members right now.
But the rule doesn't say there has to be a certain number from each party?
No, just a simple majority.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Can I throw one other quick thing out?
Sure.
You were talking about HARP a few days back. The HARP.
Oh, you're talking, yeah.
The HARP array?
Yeah, the system for communicating with submarines, yeah.
Well, actually, it's patented, and the patent says that the specific purpose of it is to heat the ionosphere to manipulate the weather, and the HARP array uses as much power as a city.
Yeah,
so
it might use a lot of power, but and a city is a rather flexible definition. But I'm very skeptical that there is such a patent, John.
No, it's patented.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll take your word for it. I'm not concerned about it, frankly. Thanks a lot for the call, Mike in Beaverton, Georgia. Hey, Mike, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's up?
Are you talking to me?
I am. You're on the air.
Oh, I'm in Beaverton, Oregon, actually.
Oh, Oregon. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It says Georgia here.
Yeah, I just want to note that I think one way we can trap Brett Kavanaugh is he keeps trying to rationalize he would overturn Roe v. Wade based upon not legislating from the bench. I think you could get him to confirm that's his rationale and then say, well, with that kind of rationale, wouldn't you also want to overturn Citizens United and Hobby Lobby? Because not only was that was not even decided by the bench, but it was decided by a clerk's head note as a precedent for that law that was done back in Southern. You know about all that because you've written about it.
Right.
And I'm thinking you could trap him either to have to be consistent with his philosophy and saying, upset his donors class by saying, okay, I would overturn them too, or he would expose himself as just being biased against Roe v. Wade principally and not because of that rationale.
I think you're right in that he is going to, and the rest of the court is going to try and overturn Roe v. Wade, and they're going to do it by saying Roe v. Wade itself was legislation from the bench. So all we're doing is correcting an error that we made, just like in Brown v. Board, we overturned Plessy versus Ferguson, just like with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments overturned Dred Scott, arguably. But I don't think that they would be receptive to an argument that Citizens United was the same thing, even though I agree with you that it was. I agree with the conservatives that Brown v. Board was legislation from the bench. It doesn't mean I'm opposed to the decision, but I think that, it was. And similarly, Citizens United, as you point out, Citizens United wasn't even brought forward as that kind of a case. It was a very small case that had to do with election law, and what was it? Rehnquist said to them, take it, or no, Roberts said to them, take it back and argue it on a much larger basis. So, yeah, I think that's definitely what they're going to do, Mike. Mike, thanks a lot for the call. Well said. We'll be back. It's 10 minutes before the hour. Free Speech TV is supported by your contributions, and I strongly encourage you during the pledge drives, or even not during the pledge drives, to call Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, support Free Speech TV. But that said, our program, the Thom Hartmann Program, what you're watching right now, is sustained by commercial advertising, and we're on commercial stations around the country. We run ads. They pay us for that. And one of the ways that you can support our program is by going to thomhartmann.com, our website, and clicking on the advertisements on that page for our sponsors and buying their products, supporting their products, or letting them know that you care about their products and that you support our show. That's thomhartmann.com, and click on the advertising there to support our program. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your supporting Free Speech TV by your ongoing, calling and supporting the fundraising drives, and we also would really appreciate if you go to thomhartmann.com.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
With our conversations today, Alan in Windsor, Connecticut, watching us on Free Speech TV. Hey, Alan, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. I'd just like to say I think that it's a big payback on this op-ed from John McCain in his grave. And somebody that loves him is paying Trump back for the way he disrespected him.
I think that's entirely possible.
Yep, I truly think so. I hope so, because there was no call for the way he treated that man.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Republican, but I love what John McCain stood for.
Yeah. Many of John McCain's ideals were noble. Many of the positions that he took were less than noble. But I get what you're saying. And he's being really substantially reinvented by the press in ways that are very positive. And it's an ideal that, a lot of our mythology, a lot of our national mythologies aren't actually real. Our stories about George Washington and the cherry tree and all other kind of stuff. But, this is a myth that's actually quite useful. Alan, I think that it's entirely possible that whoever wrote this started writing it on the day of McCain's funeral, because they mentioned McCain specifically in it. But, if they're asserting that there is a cabal inside the administration that is subverting the will of the administration, that, in my opinion, is a coup, and that, in my opinion, is a very dangerous thing. Alan, thank you for the call. Well said. Richard in Chicago, listening on Chicago's Progressive Talk. Hey, Richard, what's up?
Well, it was about this op-ed, and I just, I haven't known myself how to, deal with it. I got all worked up about it. I just don't think there's that much to this, and the reason, from a lot of standpoints, but one of them in particular is how many times are we going to have this final straw? And it's, and there's so many possibilities of the Kabuki theater. Who knows who's behind this? It might be the cover-up for Kavanaugh. Who knows? At this point, and I don't feel it's a coup, by the way. I just think it's some administrative dampening of problems. But your points are well taken. I think in a week's time we won't even remember the damn thing. Unfortunately,
we'll see. My concern is that Donald Trump takes this thing and uses it as an excuse to purge 10-20% of the staff out of the White House, and then starts going after the intelligence agencies, starts going after the Department of State, starts going after the Department of Commerce, and just basically department after department after department just purges everybody who does not agree with him and the Koch brothers.
I think he's been doing that already. I mean,
he has to a large extent, but not as vigorously.
Yeah, but the whole thing is that we need to think about it in terms of the congressional election, which is not the midterm election, but it's the congressional election.
That's correct.
And how this thing is useful for us, because we keep thinking that like that they're going to impose an impeachment. Well, the Republicans have already shown that they are contemptible. They're not Americans. They're illegitimate.
They're members of a money cult. A money-based cult.
It's even worse. They're just, they just have their own interests, and they're just not going to ever act properly. So I'm sort of trying to step back from this. I got, pretty worked up about it. I think it's very interesting, but we just add another page in the book, and this SOB is going to be around a while more. And,
we'll see.
So anyway, I think we should wait and find out who the heck, if we ever can find out more about it. It just bothers me. It seems like it's part of his.
Here's the thing, Richard. If Trump has the means to find out who wrote this, I mean, if nothing else, if he could get the cooperation of the FBI, he could find out who wrote it that way. They could, he could, he has the power to essentially even subpoena this. But if they don't reveal who wrote this in the next week or two, I'm beginning to think that the caller who called in earlier saying that he thinks that the author is actually Donald Trump himself. I don't think it's Donald Trump, it's somebody close to Trump. And that this was something that Trump could use to crack down on the kind of people in his administration who talked to Bob Woodward. I mean, basically, you're Donald Trump. You look around, you look at the Woodward book, and there's literally word for word verbatim quotes from John Kelly, from Mattis, from, the whole list, right? And you've got to be saying, who the hell talked to Bob Woodward? You can't go around and demand who talked to Bob Woodward. I mean, you can, but, you may not get solid information because that's not essentially a crime. But saying that you've taken over the executive branch of the federal government illegally, unethically, inappropriately, that is arguably a crime. That's the sort of thing that you can use this mechanism. And so I think it's possible, and I'm not willing to go full-bore conspiracy theory on this yet, but I think it's possible that this will work to the benefit of Donald Trump, whether that was his intention or not, or whether the intention of the people around him, in as much as it will allow him to do this giant purge. Richard, I got to move along. I want to get another call in here. Let's see. Stephen in, I don't have a city for you, Stephen. Where are you calling from?
No, I'm actually traveling on the road, so I'm in Laredo, Texas right now.
Okay, what's on your mind?
So I'm a conservative, and I've listened to your show many, as far as like at least for the last 3 years. I've listened to your show, and I've actually heard you be pretty reasonable. When you articulate.
But we have just a minute here, Stephen, until the end of the program. So get to it.
Okay, so I'm just surprised the amount of hysteria that's going around now. I'm really surprised that you guys are taking this for what it is. Why don't you guys push to get the anonymous source revealed?
I absolutely am.
No. I almost guarantee you that it's not going to be linked to Trump. This country has flipped its brain upside down.
Well, if it's not linked to Trump, Stephen, then we have a really serious problem.
Yeah, hey, Obama did it to reporters as far as
Oh, he put James Risen in jail.
Yeah. So Trump hasn't done that. What I'm trying to get at is that people are not listening to, are not remembering what the things that happened in the past, and Trump's not even there yet. It goes that way.
Well, we'll see. I mean, if Trump can find that any of this has to do with national security, then he has the basis to go after this person the same way that Obama did Risen, and that I think is also a dangerous precedent. What a day. So we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same bat place. And in the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It actually does require all of us. As Bernie used to say, as President Obama used to say, democracy is not a spectator sport. You have to get active. Make sure that your voter registration has not been purged by the Republicans. Get out there, get active, tag. You're it. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.